I view this as like we want to encourage a unity within our fitness industry, as opposed to all these factions fighting against each other all the time, right? And I think that there's a new standard, especially from Ben Patrick. You got to practice with proficiency what you teach moving forward, right?
When he keeps saying DAT, that's East Coast, just so.
Oh, I didn't even recognize it. I didn't even recognize it. I'm a Jersey, like I have Jersey Indian.
DAT, D-A-T means that. Helping everybody out.
So like we do this all the time. This is something I know you do all the time. And it's like I'm in the grocery store line and I'm just chilling and I'm standing here a little longer than I want to stand on a hard surface. And I can just do a quick I'm here. I could, if something happened right now, I could get up and go. I know it's funny.
I could do airport karate.
Yeah.
We're big fans of exactly what you're talking about. Like, we're in the fitness industry, and it's like, you shouldn't need 6 weeks to pop your shirt off.
The simplest thing that you can do is you walk placing your head over your next step, your head over your foot, your head over your foot. It's what you're going to do naturally. And people say like, oh, humans are so pathetic and so weak and like, okay, blah, blah, blah. But I never seen an animal jump a motorcycle 50 feet in the air and do triple flips. So I think the human capacity is far more than we give ourselves credit for.
How do you teach people how to walk from the foot up?
And this comes back to every step stronger. Dude.
Yeah, every step stronger.
Every step is a rep in what we do.
Yeah.
In our training, whatever passion you have, powerlifting, whatever it be, kettlebells, I want to do gymnastics, I like dance, whatever it is, it all comes back to the same foundation of each of those steps is a rep.
In seeing some of the things that you've seen that are out there from GOTA, from the functional patterns, like what are some of the things that you've seen that you guys might have in common, that you guys feel that there's maybe some synergy there that some folks are talking about? And what are the things where are some of the areas of contention where you disagree?
Me and my wife own pole dance studio, so I'm in that.
My girl likes to do pole dance.
It's fun. I love doing like aerial silks. I used to do that, and there's a lot to that. And
what's an aerial silk?
So like an aerial silk, it's literally like, think Cirque du Soleil. They have these huge fabrics, and like you tie yourself up in them, and you can like support yourself and do stuff like that.
We have a pole and a lira in my home.
I own 2 pole studios. So I have a ton of poles.
I have more poles than you.
PowerProject family, how's it going? This episode is brought to you by Vivo Barefoot Shoes. Now, we've been wearing Vivos for almost a year now, but the great thing about Vivos, unlike normal shoes where you put your foot into these casts that aren't mobile, they have a small toe box, and they're very dense, is that you're putting your foot into a cast. You're weakening your feet. You don't feel the ground in normal shoes. The great thing about Vivos is they're extremely flexible. They have a wide toe box. They are made to help strengthen your feet. One thing I want to mention here is that when you grab some Vivos, you may tell yourself, these are uncomfortable or these hurt. That's because your feet are weak. And as you wear these shoes, they'll start to get stronger. They'll start to feel the ground. They're good for the health of your feet. Andrew?
Yeah, absolutely. So me personally, it took me about 2 weeks to really be able to be like, okay, I think I'm getting it. Now I do not wear any other type of shoes. I only wear Vivo Barefoot shoes. You guys have to do this for your feet. Head over to vivobarefoot.com and at checkout, enter promo code PowerProject to save 20% off your entire order. Again, vivobarefoot.com. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
But it's weird. They just feel good.
Yeah, it does.
My brother is not into exercise at all, okay?
Wow.
Yeah, let's get into it.
He's a year and a half younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's like good stuff's coming. Yeah.
You're right.
Keep rambling.
And so he's really simple, right? And when he felt the soul steps for the first time, he's like, David, I like these.
Chris,
because
can you
they
start
feel
our clock?
I get the honors?
Yeah.
The shot clock.
Yeah, this is real.
Bing.
Good, real stuff.
All right.
How long is that clock?
It goes for an hour.
4 hours.
Once it's done, we'll flip it because this will go on for about 4 hours.
There you go.
What time is our flight? Let's keep that in mind.
Slightly important.
How fast can you guys drive?
I think he said it's 8 p.m., so
You're
the
good.
airport's really close to here.
Yeah. Good. Let's go.
We'll test that out a little bit.
Time attack.
We should be all good. David, how did you come to some of these conclusions? Because you have some really interesting techniques, and thank you so much for bringing Chris here because we needed somebody to kind of like funnel everything in because you're like a tornado coming through here with a lot of your information. But a lot of the stuff you shared with us today was unique. A lot of it was stuff that we've been around, I think, for a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? you showed us a lot of stuff that we weren't expecting. And I know you created and invented the BOSU ball, but how did you get into, like, I don't know, I guess researching and finding all this other stuff that you showed us today?
Well, I'm going to go back. First, the earth cooled, then the dinosaurs. No, I think what for
about
me,
that? Write that down.
Okay, got it.
I think for me, I love efficiency and I love strength, and because I'm not gifted with a tremendous amount of strength, I had to find super efficiency.
I guess it's how we define strength, because I saw you demonstrate a lot of strength today in a lot of different things.
Yeah, hand fighting. He killed me.
Well, I think, I want to be able to compete with the best that I possibly can. I fell asleep standing up when I was 6 years old, and I don't remember it, but I'm told about it. But I think my
Have you heard this before?
Oh, no, never. I've never heard a David Weck story. I may get this whole tale every single day when I go to the lab.
Fell asleep standing up at 6 years old, changed your life forever. What happened?
Well, I think what happened was I think that made a tremendous imprint on that feeling of effortless power, where it's like no effort, but I'm functioning, right? And I also fell in love with rollerblading when I lived in Manhattan, because Manhattan Island is a roller rink, and you can grab onto the back of a taxi cab and fly uptown. And the efficiency. So I think I've always been on the hunt for how can I get more for less, right? Invest heavily in the acquisition of skills and capacity to do more with less. And I'm compensating for my own athletic inadequacy. So if I played by the rules and did the training that was presented to me, well, then I'm going to lose to the better man. So it was understanding principles, and then the discovery of the modalities, in particular a staff and a rope, were the things that gave me the ability to say, oh my gosh, I can organize my body to be 100% integrated, and I have the ultimate training partner in the modality. And I'm not interested in the modality. I could care less about it. I'm agnostic. It's just like I want the special sauce, and I want the ability that I can program and download from the manipulation of these tools. And it was just the recognition, and then the measurement. Can you run faster? Can you lift up something heavier? It has to be empirically provable and measurable. Otherwise, you could be kidding yourself, is sort of the idea. And the hand fighting stuff that's what I really enjoy doing, right? I love playing and being competitive. So it gave me an outlet to see, okay, well, I'm getting faster, I'm getting stronger, and I have more prowess. Like a bigger guy, like, you ain't necessarily going to be able to push me around.
It gives you
Yes.
And Mark posted you kicking my ass at hand fighting.
This is incredible.
I was trying to show off your hamstrings is really what I was trying to do.
It's so funny.
No, you know what? I think when you boil down a lot of sports, you boil down football, you boil down basketball, you boil them down to their finest points. There's individual fights going on. There's individual war going on. There's like a little battle, right? People are battling for space. The center and the nose guard in football, they're battling for that space. The offensive line, the defensive line, the receiver, and the cornerback, they're jockeying for position, whether it be soccer or any of these sports. People are getting in close quarters with each other, doing what's supposed to be kind of within the rules, and they're like boxing each other out or pushing on each other in some fashion. But you can go to a sporting event and there's each guy is making millions of dollars. These are professionals. But when a fight breaks out in the crowd, everyone's attention turns to these two amateurs.
Right.
Fighting is a primal thing. It's been around for a long time. And I think it's awesome that you can demonstrate, at least in a playful, fun way, because it's like you don't want to really, fucking throw down with somebody out of nowhere. But I think it's actually speaks to what you're doing. You've been doing this stuff for a long time. You mentioned many injuries and surgeries and stuff. So you're not some 25-year-old guy coming in here saying, hey, I think I found out what's going to get everybody out of pain. This is like valuable stuff, and you're wrestling around with Nsima, which on paper like seems crazy. Like, who wants to wrestle this guy?
I weigh 60 pounds more than you, and you're moving me around.
It's the receptive and the yin energy, so that you're able to be sensitive and you're able to discern the subtle distinctions in force, and then be just agnostic in terms of which way you want to go. I'm going to go the other way. It's like a crossover in basketball.
Like, you're not trying to fight it.
What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to maintain control over my center in a manner that allows me to, whatever's coming at me, I can yield to it, I can neutralize it, and then it's my turn to issue it.
Understand
and
it.
Yeah.
To understand it and react to it better, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
and feeling, and there's little songs or sort of things that you say in Tai Chi, where it's basically stick or join, stick, follow, don't resist, don't insist. So join, stick, meaning, okay, once we're in, I want to feel you, because you can fake me out here. You can flinch and I'm gonna but here you can't fake me out, right? So I want to join, stick, follow, and then I don't want to resist and I don't want to insist. So whichever way you want to go, all right, you go that way, and then I'll just change and I'll take the other, whatever presents itself. And it's that little game that we created, basically that push hands, is, again, no damage is the key. Because in the striking arts, for example, it's very hard to get good because you're going to take damage when it gets up, when you ratchet it up. But jiu-jitsu and this little game we play, you could play till you're both, drenched in sweat and exhausted, and nobody got hurt.
No one's hurt.
And that's where Chris's capacity to understand and interpret my work to make himself physically better is sort of, if I were as athletic as Chris or as athletic as you, I would choose to be that. But since I'm not, if I can inform the athletes who are better than me, then that to me is the true proof that I've got something valuable. That it doesn't just work for me, but it works for other people.
If you guys are listening on audio or YouTube right now, you should pull up Chris's Instagram, because you'll see a lot of the movements that he does there. And it's like, you can see the athleticism behind everything, including with the weights that you're moving. There's always intent with every single movement that you're doing. And I also want to mention one thing, because as we continue this conversation, you're going to bring up a lot of things from like Eastern medicine or Eastern martial arts, etc. And when a lot of American individuals in exercise science, or they've studied here, they look down on a lot of that. But there's a lot of there's so much benefit there that most people here just discount, and it leaves a lot of holes in what they're learning. Because you showed us a lot of things today that I'm like, since I've done jujitsu, a lot of things I'm like, God damn, I can see why this makes so much sense. This clicks, right? But if I was just focusing on powerlifting and focusing on everything being sagittal and just everything forward, I'd just be like, why is this important? So just if you're listening, just listen and just pay attention to what he's talking about, because there's a lot of good shit we're going to get into.
Well, and I think it's also, like Mark said, if the fight breaks out, all eyes go to the fight. And it's, and I like having prowess, so it's fun. I can actually compete with you in a game where everybody would put bets on you, right? And, and I've had a lot more experience at the game, and all things being equal, you'll eventually be able to beat me just because you're the better man. But unless you know the game, you won't beat me. Because I'm not overpowering you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because at some point in your life cycle, you're going to crest in your physical prowess. And then it's a downhill road from there. And how gracefully can you navigate that decline and keep yourself, spry and moving real well?
What I like about what we did today is, I was kind of messing around with pushing the tank around, and you guys walked in, and then we just started training.
Yeah, we did. That was
and
awesome.
Chris is like,
business.
he's like, this is not normally how we teach, because you guys wanted to come in and coach and inform. But then you started showing us some kind of high level stuff that would be, maybe a couple days down the road. But I like that because, we had a guest on yesterday, and he said, you work on what you can work on and you fix what you can fix. So yes, do the stuff you're capable of now. Right now you squat and your proficiency at squatting is not great, but you love to squat. It's like, okay, keep squatting, but also do the stuff that you need to do to correct your feet or your hips or your knees, because it can get to be kind of ridiculous. We don't want to discourage people from doing things. Sometimes somebody does have to take a step way back every once in a while, right? But we don't want to discourage people from going to jiu-jitsu or people from deadlifting. We want to be able to say, hey, you know what? The way that you've been doing that, maybe we got to correct some things. We got to fix some stuff. But eventually that person's going to want to lift again. Mm-hmm. And I was a professional wrestler for several years. And when I was doing that, we would talk about certain wrestlers and we'd ask our coach, we'd say, hey, whatever happened to that guy? And our coach would say, well, eventually the bell has to ring. It just meant the guy didn't have it. Like it did, Nathan Jones, who was he was in the movie Troy. He's the giant that gets killed by Brad Pitt. He was a professional wrestler. And he had the look, he had everything. He didn't have the skill set when the bell rang. Mm. And so what I liked about you guys is when it came to like battle, which is just us training basically, you guys were up for it and you guys were showing us stuff and you guys are hopping around the gym and moving super explosively and fast. And I'm like, holy shit, like I want to move like that. So you guys caught my attention with not what you were saying. I mean, I enjoy what you're saying and I'm trying to follow along the best I can, but I'm like, this is probably some inroads to be able to move this way because these guys probably didn't used to move that way.
I certainly did not. So that's a huge. Yeah.
Well, tell your story about how we came to work together.
Yeah, I mean,
from his perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I was a big kettlebell guy. That's been my thing my whole life, and I was lifting a lot, and I really cared about overhead pressing. Like that's the biggest thing in the kettlebell world is getting a heavy bell over your head. Mm-hmm. And I was doing a lot of gymnastics, and I was fit. I'm under 30. I was feeling like strong, but like on the inside, wasn't feeling as awesome as I should be, like for all the effort I was putting in. And I just happened to stumble upon this guy in San Diego and telling everybody they're going to move better and feel better if they experience this stuff. And I got to come down to the lab from a good friend of ours that invited me over to see you, which,
Chris Daly, he's a dear friend of ours who passed away this year in a tragic accident. So God rest his soul.
I know, and he's a big reason we met. And he put us in touch. And literally, I come into this place with the mad scientist, the tornado. I actually got to go into his lair. He showed me something. He showed me the coil. We used that term a lot today. We were playing around with. I got to feel something in like the early stages of it and experience something, and it was so profound on me. I think that was going around a lot today. That feeling in that lower extremities or lat. I felt that and literally like went to the gym right after I let you, and I was bent pressing 115 pounds over my head at that time, which is pretty heavy. Mm-hmm. And literally just from feeling that, went back to the gym and I put up the 68 kg, which is a 150-pound bent press.
Bent press is when you put it up over your head, but then you lean away to the side.
Arthur Saxon. So you're pressing. So, and I was about 75 at that time. So it's almost my same
position, right? It kind of puts you in that same.
Absolutely.
So it just literally gave me a little edge on something I didn't understand how to connect to and something I was proficient at. So this was I was chasing bench presses. I was going after it. I loved it. I'm not going to stop doing it. But I just got a little bit of technical stuff and something else I wasn't exploring. Like, what if I tried this type thing? That's a big motto we use, right? And I explored that, lift heavy, and then all eyes, or all my ears, everything just went right to that. This thing's supposed to make me run better. And I was excited. Like, I can get stronger, I can lift heavier, and I get to run better and just move better and explore. And creativity is a big piece of what I like to do. So to be able to tap into a whole new way of moving and being able to just explore it in all avenues was huge.
And you actually do run, like I think you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I used to run a lot. Yeah. I used to do like I think at one point I qualified for some like World's Tough Mudder or something like that way back in the day. But I used to do a lot of trail running, so I do like running, and I was a pretty good sprinter. Yeah. I didn't do it collegiately or anything like that, but cool. Yeah, but I do enjoy.
Well, and I would also say that. Anybody who is curious about my work, I feed them, right? Like I love to teach and I love to share because, again, and we're going to get into this, like the greater purpose of this whole meeting and collaboration and enhancing physical education all over the world. Yeah. And I think that this is an epicenter, a tipping point where we can share what's true and scrutinize everything, right? And empirical results is always the bellwether, right? But I view this as like we want to encourage a unity within our fitness industry as opposed to all these factions fighting against each other all the time, right? And let's get to sort of a best idea wins mentality where it's a collaborative effort because ultimately, when you boil it all down, we all have the same objective. It's just to help people, right? But what Chris did was he took to like, okay, whatever, 40-pound PR that fast. And then he came in and I'm just like, okay, well, I'm going to teach you the ropes. And the tenacity with which he got the reps in and programmed his body was like, holy shit, I'd never seen someone so rabidly hungry for this work and progressing so fast in this work that it wasn't too long after that we just sort of like, okay,
This is it.
This is like, and my intention with Chris is that we work together for the rest of our lives.
Yeah,
right.
And I never stumble. I mean, I've been training since I was 18. I didn't even want to go to school, or I went to school to be like I was a hospitality management. I was going to be a wedding planner. You know what I mean? Like I was totally different thought process in my head. And like, I always kind of danced around sort of these factions you're talking about in the industry because I kind of felt like it was sticking me to something. I couldn't like express myself and explore things if I was diving into the faction, and it just didn't feel right on me. And it always just drove me nuts. So I sort of learned myself from them. I picked things up myself. I learned that way anyways. But when I met you, man, just that mission, like it was true. It's like we want to combine all that. We want to get under everybody, and we want to help all the factions grow and find carryover between each other. And that was really
and that's the other thing is that what I have products that I invent, right? So instantly I'm suspect and I'm a guy with a gadget, right? Okay, he's trying to screw people with the thing that makes you weaker and all that nonsense. But
You're a sissy.
Yeah, exactly. I got it painted on my back.
David and I, we've been messing around about him being a big sissy because he created the BOSU ball. So he's like, I'm just cornered into this.
Like I'm painted with this like
that you're
scarlet letter.
Balance on one foot holding a 5-pound dumbbell,
I'll do it longer than you.
Yeah.
Throwing Nsima.
But you think about the wild aspect of people continuing or people joking about the BOSU ball when that thing is an amazing tool for balance, proprioception of the feet, the ankles. Like it's an amazing tool if you use it well. But if you don't use it well and you hop on some lady that's working 40 hours a week that never stands and you have her do a BOSU ball squat when she doesn't even know how to do anything like that.
With like weight on her back.
With weight on her back, okay, there's our problem. But it's an amazing tool.
Right. The pendulum swings, right? So I'm a product inventor, but when Chris came on and we were boiling down, okay, what is WeckMethod, right? For me, it's just the relentless pursuit of better defined by balance, master polarities and have all the space in between. But Chris has an integrity and ice runs through his veins. Like, I mean, all he cares...
Looks like ice runs through his veins.
Just thinking about how he's going to kill all of them.
Come on, guys.
And what it was when we were forming these triangles, right? So okay, we have locomotion, we have swinging, we have throwing and catching. Like that's a functional trinity that got us started in the beginning. So what we did was we made sure that the fundamentals were not based in product, right? So it's sticks, stones, ropes, and a stick and a stone don't have to be fashioned. You can find them in nature. So the innovation, which is how you utilize the stick and the stone that creates the leverage. And once you get the cordage and the rope, that ties everything together. And now you got leverage. And those are the first three tools that got us started.
Speaking of leverage, you showed me a video where you had some dumbbells in your hands and you did like a broad jump.
Oh, yeah. So basically, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to simplify my work and normalize my work, right? So I figured dumbbells, everybody associates with a dumbbell, right? And so if I can just get you to feel how that weight in your hands can be used as like counterbalancing so that you can hit certain positions where it's actually easier because you have the weight in your hands. And the physics is a big thing, first principles physics. And the idea that you're going to, oh yeah, look, there I am, right? Trying to just teach simple stuff. And this one, like it actually works if you can associate and feel it. And I think, I'm trying to make it so that, okay, get it now so you can feel it. And
I think you were mentioning that people could like jump maybe further or feel a good swing.
Yes. So,
maybe not the highest level people, but your average person.
Okay, so if you're going to look from a biomechanist standpoint, right? You're a biomechanist, right? Now, the idea that I'm going to add weight to the system in the distal extremities, no less, and then perform a task better, that's counterintuitive. And in the ancient Greek Olympics, they had an event called there was the standing broad jump, and they used halters, which were these weights made of stone. Okay. And because there's no time coefficient in that event, it's just a distance measurement, I have plenty of time to wind up with that extra weight in the distal, create this momentum and inertia that now I jump and now I pull my body an extra 8 inches in distance, having held the weights. So you're actually traveling greater distance on an event with weights in your hands. It's counterintuitive. Wait a minute, you got to move more mass. It's in the distal.
Have you guys ever just tested this on your own? You ever just try it and you happen to jump further?
Yeah, you can feel a distinct
It's propulsion.
Well, what it is you have this, and now I have a feedback to pull and displace my center of mass further in space. And with the propulsors, they're a shifting weight that literally going up a hill or upstairs, you will perform it faster and easier with the weight in your hands because the shifting weight eliminates the inertia.
For people who don't know what the propulsors are, like, can you explain them?
It's like a little canister. It's like a little canister that has metal beads in it that basically allows you to shift the weight.
Maybe you can ask Owen to grab them or something, Andrew. Maybe you can text
what are they called?
I can actually go grab them real quick.
Propulsors, okay. I can pull it up. Sorry, I was looking for the broad jump, but I have it.
That's the halters. Yeah, so that's a propulsor right there. So it's a handheld weight that has a shifting load inside it that essentially allows you to activate the body's connective tissue recoil mechanism. So you can see the weight shifting.
There is so much more to movement that is like, there's still so much more to discover.
Oh,
there's still so much more to discover. I was just listening to Andy Galpin the other day, and he was talking about proprioception and like kinesthetic awareness.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And he was talking about like a lifting belt. And this is something that was taught to me by Louis Simmons as well. Louis like, a lifting belt's not for your lower back. He's like, it's for your stomach. He's like, it's for your abdomen, to brace your stomach. And to wear a lifting belt properly, you don't cinch that thing down all the way. You leave it open a little bit. You should be able to get your fingers in there and then breathe into the belt.
Fill it in.
And fill it in. He's like, it's more of a support system for your stomach. And what Dr. Andy Galpin said, with a lot of research to back it up, is that your abdomen will actually get stronger from wearing a belt, where people think that it wouldn't get stronger. Yep. Mm-hmm. And so in the case of something like my product, the slingshot, you can get stronger by actually wearing it because you are bringing awareness to these muscles and things that you're using. You can make an argument for an elbow sleeve or knee sleeve where people are like, hey, that's cheating. It's allowing me to do more weight. Maybe that's so, but it's also adding a lot to your training. And what you created here with this propulsion, I think is really an interesting thing because you have weight, and it would sound like it would be something that would slow you down, but it's like 12 ounces per hand, right?
Yep, 12 ounces per hand. So it's the size of your average soda or Budweiser in terms of weight, and that shift is the key because when the weight shifts, we've effectively eliminated the inertia out of the momentum inertia physics equation. Mm-hmm. So if you have a mass and that mass is moving, it has a momentum, and to slow it down is hard because it has an inertia based on that momentum. Mm. So you're putting on the brakes, but there's a lot of weight to slow down. So it takes a long time. This shifts. So when you stop going down, the weight's at the top because you're faster than gravity on the way down. Mm-hmm. And now you're stopping a piece of plastic that weighs next to nothing. So there's no restriction on how fast you can stop it. And the instant, we're talking fractional seconds here, the instant you stop it, it comes down and hits with a load. We're trying to calculate it. We believe that the load from 12 ounces for a microsecond, it's in excess of 40 pounds of spike load, and then it disappears as fast as it showed up. Mm-hmm. And so it's literally like, the difference is if where the camera is, but if I take my finger and I do that versus I take my finger and I do that, right? Oh, there's the pulsar. Boom, 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 as opposed to right? Mm-hmm. And so that's what it does. And I
like what you're saying here because you gave me an analogy earlier about if you were trying to lift a piano.
Yes.
And if a fly was to land on the piano, like it wouldn't register in your mind.
Right.
But if even 40 or 50 pounds went on the piano, you would notice it. But if it only went on there for a split second, you might not even recognize it as well. Like if it's not on there for that long, you might not pick it up.
And it might, if it didn't cause you to fail, it might actually cause you to bump the piano up.
Because you felt the strength of it.
Because so your body reacted to that strength. And
Never heard this one.
when I discovered that core fist, the skeletal alignment,
we got to get into that one too. Yeah.
So, but when I discovered that, right, and it was May 1st, 2010, Shane Mosley fighting Mayweather. He hit Mayweather in the second round. I jumped up, went like that, and later that night I went like that, and I was like, whoa! And I felt it. I was like, oh my God. And as soon as I felt this, I was like, holy shit. Like when I run, I can strike down and I can create this jolt that pops me off by punching down. And as soon as I felt that, I saw it in my mind's eye. Deion Sanders. That's how he runs. You remember the football, right?
It's the most beautiful thing in the world watching Deion Sanders run. It's fucking amazing.
It's poetry in motion. Yeah. And it's just boom, boom, boom. And then you come to look at Randy Moss, you look at Darryl Green, you look at Eric Dickerson, you look at Lawrence Taylor. Even Usain Bolt has that action where the arm coming forward is increasing the vertical spike of force. And Bolt does it with his elbow. Deion does it with his hand. Randy has like a ringing action with his.
Oh, this is so good.
Yeah,
so good. Whoop him.
So boom, now what? Look, you see? You see the football?
Yeah.
You ain't catching him.
Deion Sanders.
Oh man, he was so fun to watch. He's always dancing on the field and everything.
Probably the most explosive, game-changing, big playmaker in the NFL. You see the football? You see the way he brings it down? He's creating a greater ground force.
That suit was so good.
Prime time. Neon Deion. That was back when he was neon.
Yep. And the punt returns and kickoff returns and stuff. He was.
But you'll see. Yeah. Now watch.
Oh, he just waited for that
his
guy.
arms. Watch his arms.
Watch his elbows too, man.
Boom. Boom.
And the arm is kind of close to you, in front of you, right? It's not far. It doesn't get far away from you, really, right?
You don't. Yeah. What you want is you want an acute flexion angle on this phase here, because if I'm here, it's more distance, and I'm not as strong here. I'm here. I'm real strong. It's my body weight. And so if the arm comes up here, I can bring it down, hit the hammer, it pops back up. And then the key is to harness the forward action with an explosive move.
See that right there?
That gives you the jolt. And you can see the way he does it.
I notice some people running that way, like when I'm out running and I see someone real poppy. They jump around like a kangaroo, and I'm always like, man, I got to figure that out. What is? I think they're just kind of doing it naturally because they feel good.
Yes, your body's craving it. Yeah. And when you watch someone jog, right, even a mediocre athlete, you're going to see their head go side to side a little bit, right? And it looks like they're hitting cymbals because I'm bouncing. I'm bouncing. I'm not using the muscles. I'm using the connective tissue. You go to the doctor, he hits you in the knee with the kneecap, bing, right? You didn't do that. It was a bing, and it took you no effort to move very, very explosively, very far, very fast, because you hit the connective tissue. And this is essentially I knew since 2010 the pulse, right? The double down pulse. I could do it. And I could teach it to someone who was highly, highly, highly motivated, and because I didn't have a tool to do it. It took me 7 years to come up with it. I went to the swap meet, which I do every weekend. It's like, box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. Yeah. And I found these weights on a table. They're little 2-pound weights, and they were 50 cents. And there were 4 of them. So I will take all 4, and you will hold these 2, and I will return to pick them up. And I ran around the swap meet with the 2-pound weights, and I was just boom, holy shit, boom. My arms got so sore from all the inertia. So I came home, and I'm like, the RMT Club, what's it got? It's got shifting weight. Let me take, I'm a slob, so, there's 50 vitamin pills and bottles like sitting in the kitchen all empty. And so I put some in, and I was like, holy shit. This is my greatest invention ever. And I wrote a patent for it, and this, something about patents.
Yeah, I do.
Right? So I've written, I don't know how many patents now, 8, 9 or whatever. And this patent cost me 4 times more than any other patent. I worked harder on this patent, and I got an issue on the patent for no rejection. And normally that's a mistake. It means you didn't ask for enough, right? But because it's if this was known before, we'd all be doing it. It's basically how I think it works.
Yeah.
And if I didn't invent the BOSU ball, I think it would have a greater ease to onboard it, because if I walk into certain environments, I'm persona non grata because I invented the BOSU ball, right? Oh, that little sissy, that little punk, whatever, right? And there's a huge proportion of the highly educated, first earner trainers, the guy who pays to turn on the lights.
It's like you're sitting around with a team, and the team's like, "Hey, what do you got next? Because you got to invent more stuff because we got to make more money." That's what people kind of think, right?
Oh yeah. People, and you see what happens is we all have the burden of establishing our unique selling proposition in the industry, right?
Yes.
And if I'm a science guy, well, then I use science to throw my weight around, right? And I try to show you something. Well, where's the science? What research do you have on it? It's like, really, dude? Really? Like, is that your excuse for not wanting to do it? And I think that there's a new standard, especially from Ben Patrick. You got to practice with proficiency what you teach moving forward.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Right? I don't
That's the
care
key, man.
I don't care
That's
you
it.
went to some PowerPoint presentation. Now you're going to come out and tell me that 19 soccer players did this for 6 weeks and now we're going to all do that? Really? No. I want to learn what you actually can teach me, not tell me. Right?
When you keep saying "dat," that's East Coast, just so.
Oh, I didn't
everybody-
even recognize it.
Yeah.
I didn't even recognize it. I'm a Jersey, like I have Jersey Indian.
Dat, D-A-T means that. Helping everybody out.
Yes.
Yeah, you can take the kid out of Jersey, but you ain't gonna take the Jersey out the kid. So anyway, getting back to the integrity of this man, we were able to put together. He took WeckMethod and he filled it in with a cohesive sort of, okay, we have a lexicon. It's super simple. We master one side, a coil. We master the other side, a coil, right? We understand how to harness the power of bilateral torsion. So we're less thinking flexion extension than global rotation and spiraling that creates a torsional effect. And then we put it all together with rotational movement training, where it's any and all combinations of those things. And if you establish this base, literally everything gets better. And so we could take anybody and we could say, all right, well, do these things and now measure what you do.
Yeah.
Right? Measure what you do. Because in order for me to squat the most, right, I need to learn how to pack everything in, right?
Yes.
Pack and pack it in, create that pressure. But if I only pack bilaterally, well, I'm missing out on those millimeters that matter. If I can go unilateral here like that and then get it on that, oh, now I got just that little bit more.
Yeah.
And that little bit more makes all the difference.
Can you guys explain the concept of coiling? Because you talked about how beneficial that was for you on day one of understanding it. And when you taught that to me today and even Mark, got into that position, I was like, fuck, I was cramping up because I've never been in those positions before. But one thing is, as people do the things that we'll have on video soon, they're going to have the same reaction. Like they'll cramp up. They'll be like, oh, this isn't a good place for me to be. But over time, when you get used to those positions, they don't feel as trippy. They don't feel as crampy. So can you explain that concept to us so we can understand what coiling is and does?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the idea, in simple terms, it's this idea of like a proximal side bend. So if I cut my arms and my legs off, we're looking at the shoulder and the hip. I'm trying to close the gap, or I'll show here, like right shoulder to right hip. And if I can maintain that proximal side bend, that's the coil.
And it's not just a side bend like
Yeah,
this.
and then the thing that makes it honed a little more, and where you start getting that more advanced feeling that most people probably won't actually feel if they're going to watch something and just try it out for themselves. They're not going to find it. They don't have that hands-on yet. Is that we start having the external cues. What are we trying to direct all of this intent to? And that's where things start shifting. The eyes start going in certain positions, and then I start to get a deeper feeling or sensation in that side bend, right?
And what I would say for the geeky people out there like myself who likes geeky stuff, you have a man named Grakovetsky who basically defined a spinal engine. So if we're going to look at the evolution of movement for the vertebrate animals, right, the vertebrates, right? So it starts Piscean. You're in fluid, you're a fish, and all you do is side bend. Right, that's all you do. Now, soon as you come out of that buoyant medium and you're an amphibian or a reptile, you got to prop yourself up. And the amphibian reptile has that lateralization. They're not sagittal like a mammal, so they're here. And now I'm still operating on this, but because I have to prop myself up, now there becomes this figure eight where the coil is the shoulder come down and back, commensurate with the hip coming up and forward with a central axis that doesn't change. So it's this Marshall principle of move without moving so that I'm most economical. Because in nature, economy means you pass on your genes, right? Non-economy means you don't.
If you can envision like a pitcher or something like that, that's exactly what you're talking about, right?
Correct.
They're raising one side, lowering the other side, driving in, internally rotating the hip and putting their entire body weight. And then it's all the way through to like a follow through.
Yes, exactly. And we say that the basic underlying functions that underlie everything is the locomotive function, the swinging function, the throwing and catching function, because that's most necessary for survival if we're just going to go back to the most basic things.
I want to get into that. So he's talking like spinal engine theory, this idea of going side to side. And a lot of what we're doing in the gym now, the training environment, there's so much center, so much bilateral in our language, right? That we're not getting the frequency side to side anymore. And we're trying to rely on things like walking or running in order to get that frequency of cycling. And we're not exposing ourselves to the range that it actually has access to. So that idea, our foundation or coiling core, it's teaching us to create like isometric holds here to develop a position or posture and understand that that's a safe place to be and develop an awareness of it. So that now when I go for my 30-minute jog, I'm tapping a little more range and I'm getting better and better reps every time. So that's the big thing we're doing is we're creating frequency in a new range of motion. We're just exposing a range of motion. We're giving it external intent so that it's driven to something. And now we can get volume in it. And then it's just normalized. It's the same thing.
And it's the fundamental of balance. A balanced system is right now ready. And you don't have hot spots in a balanced system, right? Everything is operating in proportion as it should, as it must to optimize if you have the balance.
I mean, you're ready to go at all times, pretty much.
Deion Sanders, cheetah don't stretch, right?
Yeah.
You know,
he supposedly showed up to the NFL Combine, which I think was different back then, but supposedly he was in a track suit and they're like, "You're up," and he's like, "Okay," and he just
4-1 something.
Yeah, like
and
it
he
was
just
like a
walked out the door.
That's the that's the legend right there.
But actually, this morning, like we just come in and we all sort of like just started going ham on everything. But you kind of there was a moment you mentioned something, and then I think we kind of got separated before we got there. But you were talking about like warming up or prep or I think something like that. You asked a question on that, and
just said stiffness.
Stiffness. We started talking about something like that, right? And I was kind of like
a lot of people my age, like they go to get up, and even some family members and some people that are even a little older than me, but they'll kind of get up and it takes them a second to kind of get out of that kind of stuck position. They're kind of bent forward and then they're okay. And then they can kind of move around. But even Stan Efferding, who we had here a while back, he was kind of in awe of Dr. Sean Baker, who we had here.
Oh, yeah.
And he was
saw
like,
that.
Sean, like you don't, because they're the same age. They're both like 53. He's like, Sean, you're not like stiff after sitting down for a while or after because we trained and then we sat and we did a podcast type thing. And he's like, no, man, I feel great. And so I just started thinking about it more because I've had that stiffness before and I'm starting to get further and further away from it.
And see, that's what I was saying was when I first met him, I kind of was doing all that stuff in the center. I was working one torsion line. I was doing a lot of gymnastics, a lot of kettlebell, a lot of lifting, and it really amplifies one side of it. And I wasn't practicing the side bending. All right. And I was just starting to kind of get that little bit of stiffness and I'm not even 30 yet. So I'm going, this ain't right. Something's not right. Right. But what happens now is that this position, understanding this, getting this feeling, it sort of gives you this ability to body scan really quickly. So like we do this all the time. This is something I know you do all the time. And it's like I'm in the grocery store line and I'm just chilling and I'm standing here a little longer than I want to stand on a hard surface. And I can just do a quick I'm here. I could, if something happened right now, I could get up and go. I know it's funny.
I could do airport karate.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, I can do a quick check-in and go, like, everything's all right, and I'm capable right now. I don't got to warm up and stretch and do all this stuff that's not realistic in a real situation.
Right.
And I'm capable. You know what I mean? If I'm going to go for whatever, I might prep for it a different way. Or if I do the body scan and it's telling me I'm not ready, then I'm not ready. You know what I mean? And I think that giving people some ownership over their own bodies and like giving them tools to actually like feel something in themselves to like like say, hey, I'm good, and not say you have to do this all the time.
We're big fans of exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we're in the fitness industry, and it's like you shouldn't need 6 weeks to pop your shirt off.
Yeah.
You know, you should be okay with it now. Like, don't tell me that you need to like go on some special diet or whatever.
Sure.
And then same thing with exhibiting your strength. That, you know, hey man, give me a 12-week block and then I'll be able to squat that or I'll be able to lift that.
Yeah.
It's like let's keep some capacities. Obviously, they can change obviously, and you can have different goals and do powerlifting meets and stuff. But let's keep these capacities high. Let's keep them going at all times.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, always ready, right? And having tools within yourself. That's very individualized, I think, too. Is having something that you do for yourself to kind of put that back and forth on. You weigh it on. So
I just love the idea that like I'm ready right now.
yeah,
I really enjoy that. And then the importance of just walking with balance.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I think simplicity is of the essence, right? Because especially in this day and age where the attention spans are short, like who the hell is ever going to play the clarinet these days, right? You know, I press a button and I'm playing the damn thing.
they have a huge following that plays clarinet, probably.
No, but yeah,
played the clarinet actually
But the simplest thing that you can do is you walk, placing your head over your next step, your head over your foot, your head over your foot, and it incorporates a coiling action that is just natural. It's an underhand figure eight. It's what you're going to do naturally. If you're exhausted and you're climbing up a mountain, up to the top, when you're really tired, you're sort of forced into that body mechanics.
When you're going uphill.
Yeah, when you're going up a hill, because you have to be there. Otherwise, you're going to be too tired. You won't be able to take the next step. Yeah. And if you can walk with balance, you are relieving the burden of one tiny drop of water / compensatory tension in your lower back. Because if you're not in balance, the opposite side, like a cantilever of the lower back, has to light up just a tiny bit, right? You don't feel it now. You don't feel it tomorrow, but you stack them and you stack them and you stack them. Now you're getting a little bit stiffer, and suddenly, you know, you sweep the porch and your back goes out, right? And now and that leads to all other compensation. So now your foot hurts, and then you got a toothache, and you're like, that came from the injury in your toe. You got TMJ now, right? And then you go to the TMJ doctor. He's like, all right, well, I'm going to take out the otolith in your ear, whatever the hell I'm going to do, right? Yeah. So systemically, the way in which we move, if we can move with the grace of a predatory animal, who's going to eat tonight? Yep. I was telling Mark, you know, I was like, you know, he was pushing the sled. I'm like, who's going to eat tonight? Right? Because if you boil it down to like, am I going to eat or not? Things get very, very focused very, very quickly. And the prey is that peripheral, like, okay, my heart's beating 300, I'm eating, but the predator is the one that like, oh, our eyes are here, our eyes aren't here, right? So we have to focus on the task at hand, and that efficiency allows us to succeed and keep succeeding and keep succeeding. And we come from the winners. And it was the wielding of these very basic tools in the very beginning that informed us. And people say like, oh, humans are so pathetic and so weak and like, okay, blah, blah, blah. But I never seen an animal jump a motorcycle 50 feet in the air and do triple flips. I never seen like, you know, an animal do a Cirque du Soleil performance. So I think the human capacity is far more than we give ourselves credit for. And I think that with humanity, it is simply a matter of will. If the human will is determined to get it done, it gets done. And in the beginning, you have no idea how the hell you're going to do it, but you're going to do it. And so like if you give me somebody with the guts and the will to say, okay, I will succeed, I'm going to put my money on that person even more than talent.
You know, I want to go to the walking aspect real quick because it's great that we're talking about this. We had Squat University on yesterday, and we were talking about shoes and how they kind of fucked people. And he was mentioning how, you know, when most people switch to barefoot shoes, like we're wearing Vivos, you're wearing some interesting kicks. Stylish.
Very stylish. Yeah.
But when people put their feet into these shoes, they're not used to them. Their feet may start to hurt because like I was walking with my girlfriend yesterday and we were just walking, but I was listening to her footsteps and she was in some Vivos. and they were heavy. And then I was listening to my footsteps. I couldn't hear my footsteps. And then I was like, how do you usually like what are you doing right now when you're walking? And she was stepping with her heel, but then all her weight went on her whole front foot. And then she would keep making steps. But then if she went heel, fourth and fifth metatarsal, big toe, things starts to quiet down. And she was like, I don't usually walk like this, but it feels better, right? So that's one thing that it's like people as like we need a weight shift, but it's even the way that your foot hits the ground over time. Because if you're used to wearing big padded shoes and you're used to hitting the ground,
right.
Once you shift to this shit that we're wearing right now, you will hurt because you're used to all those forces coming up. So how do you teach people how to walk from the foot up?
You're standing on it.
Well, right. Right.
He creates gadgets. We create tools, but they're not just gadgets. They're tools that have a purpose. There's something that's supposed to help you without having to think about it. We're talking about walking right now. Like it's something we all have a right to do. It's something we all get a ton of frequency on, whether we're fit or not, or active or not. You can put the pedometer on and you're going to see that you get like 5,000 steps every day at least. You know what I mean? So you're putting in frequency on something, and something like that you can stand here all day, you're learning to meet the ground a little better, right?
And also what I would say is that it's semantics perhaps, but it's always load to explode. So when someone says it comes from the ground up, there is an antecedent effect where it goes down to the ground first. So in that sense, and what I say is the upper body has to be correct in order for the feet to even have a chance. Because if the upper body's not right, I don't care what you do with your foot, it won't work, right? And it doesn't come from the foot, it comes from the gravitational action then reaction. So it is this boom, boom.
It certainly comes higher up. You know, if you are trying to focus on having your feet straight, you kind of need to do that from the hip. But I've noticed, you mentioning, say, hey, don't worry a ton about any of that. Just, kind of rock the head back and forth and see how that feels. And then I looked down at my feet and they were straighter. I was like, oh, okay. It gets solved by just kind of moving your head back.
Right. What I would say is that, first of all, I would say that feet take a lot of time.
Yeah.
So if you've been trapped in your shoes for 30 years, well, don't expect to be running around barefoot tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
And I would also say that barefoot shoes, think of like a condom, okay? You know how thin a condom is? And I don't like them. Anyway, right? Now think about a barefoot sole and how that deadens the proprioception and the sensitivity of the foot. So what I would say is that find a very safe environment and actually go barefoot, because now you're getting that instant to instant feedback where you will do it better than you will in a barefoot shoe.
Absolutely.
And so now you sort of strategically, phasically say, all right, I'm going to do it barefoot here. Now I'm going to put on the shoes and try to replicate that same feeling. I do things extreme. So when I went on my barefoot journey, I got a pair of 5 fingers and I went 100 days straight. No matter come hell or high water, I'm wearing these. And I was in New York City. And I remember just walking and walking and walking on that perpetual flat cement. And just my feet were killing me because I hadn't figured out the exact sequence yet. And I remember the best relief that I had was on the corner with those yellow dots. And like, oh God, because there was a little differentiation. The earth is round, but the ground is flat. Because the wheels of commerce must roll, and we need them paved so we can get slingshots from here to there.
Can you tell us about the sequence though? Because like you talk a lot about the big toe. Can you tell us about the sequence of what the foot should be doing when you're walking? Because I think that's a foreign thing for a lot of people.
Okay, so basically with the foot, I want to first say this. So we're going to go back to sort of the embryology, right? So when the foot comes out of the body as a limb bud on the Wolffian ridge for all these, there's a center line on the side that's called the Wolffian ridge, and that's what emanates the feet and the hands. They sprout out you don't have a leg, you got a foot.
Okay.
And so basically the foot comes out like this, and so it comes out and then it rotates like that. So the bottom of your foot is really the front of your body, and the top of your foot is really the back of your body if you go back to origin.
Oh.
Okay?
Okay.
So now, if we start looking at structure, we have integrity of strength on the outer edge of the hand and the outer edge of the foot.
Yeah.
Because we're tied into the substantial bones. In the foot, the fourth and fifth metatarsals, so the fourth and fifth toes, they tie directly into the calcaneus. And the first, second, and third toe, they ride on top and they tie into the talus on top. So we'd say it's like your first floor is the ground floor, which is the outside. That's the fourth and the fifth. And so what you're doing is you're receiving on the outside strong. So that's our go. And then we have a go to where we pass it off to the long.
Yep.
And if that sequence is correct, everything moves well, right? If the sequence is interrupted where you go too soon to the inside, now you have what we will call like a collapse, right? You know, oh, well, you know, your inside of your foot's collapsing because the second floor wasn't buttressed and supported by the first floor. And so your general sequence is going to be that you initiate on the outside, somewhere, you know, in the back if you're walking slowly, and then more in the fourth and fifth metatarsal head, the ball of the foot if you're running fast, but it's outside, and then to inside, and it comes off the big toe.
You should grab a step, if you don't mind.
Oh, yeah.
This is the perfect. If you were actually to step off your step,
Yeah.
that's it. That's it. Literally, it will take you through the same thing. If you stepped on it and stepped off of it, it's going to run you through it.
Yeah, this is a sole step right here, and it puts you on the outside of your foot.
I see what you're talking about.
On an angle.
Pulls
and
you
then
to the inside.
It cocks the spring. It cocks the spring of the big toe, and it prevents collapse because you can't collapse because it's the weight is going to the outside heel from the big toe, but then the inside heel is coming to the outside ball. So it's sort of this X of force that standing still is dynamic. It is happening, gravity, right? So you're accelerating, but we're buttressed against the ground, so we're not accelerating. But if I drop, and you know, it's happening right now. So it's standing still is a dynamic activity from the nervous system, and you have that excitation of extension. And you know, you'll see it, especially somebody's watching TV and they'll start to do that. You know what I mean? Like that's a reflex that your body wants to maintain that efficient vertical orientation, right? And so basically with the foot, when you're on this, you're sort of cocking the spring and getting it so that when you get off, your foot now understands that motion from the outside to the inside. Picture like passing a basketball. If I'm here and I'm passing a basketball, I go here and I follow through.
Yep.
Right? And the foot's very similar. And the big toe, it's fascinating when you get into the anatomy because the reason why the core fist works is because I'm keeping the last digit straight so I can triangulate the bone structure and the triangles are strong. But in the foot, it's different. The muscle, that the tendon that attaches to that joint in the hand, this one, it rounds up and it crosses your elbow. So this PIP, the proximal interphalangeal joints for the geeks, right? Your second digit or whatever, your second joint in the finger if you're not a geek, we're able to do that and can create a continuity. But in the foot, the second joint in the foot only goes to the heel. So it's a very short intrinsic foot muscle to there. And it's the tips of the toes that run up into the shank, right? You know, up in the calf. And it's cross-lateralized, meaning that the big toe has a tendon that comes at the tip. It supports the inner ankle, and then it comes to the fibula on the outside. And then the four toes here, they come up, support the inner ankle, and they start on the tibia. So you have this like cross-hatching, and the tip of the toe is the important finishing touch.
Yeah.
Right? It's the tip of the toe. And then it's a modulation of the tensional balance. So you're not applying too much force too early with the toe. You've created the angles where you can create an advantageous connective tissue. I call it almost like a clawing action, not pawing, but clawing. Because you got to go back in just evolutionary theory, whether you believe it or not, just let's tell the story and play it out. If we come from those that sort of, you know, lived in trees, right, primates, you're interacting with a rounded surface, whether it's the trunk of a tree or a branch of a tree. And if you look at a foot, it looks a lot like it's supposed to articulate and do that. And if I were God and I'm building it intelligently, well, give me fucking wheels or a rocket ship or something.
Yeah.
Why do I have all these tiny little joints that are going to cause all these problems, right? And if you look at the actual mechanics of somebody running, like Eliud Kipchoge, the greatest marathoner of all time, never injured, the best times.
Yeah.
If you look at his feet and you just got out of your little, biomechanist kinesiology course, you're going to tell him that he should never run another step because he's collapsing in and blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, Eliud
Curious
Kipchoge.
to see what you're talking about here.
Right? So if you look at his feet, and if slow motion's easier to see it, but in that group of people right there, if you go slow, you're going to see more than half of them are going to look like, the biomechanist is going to look at that and say, wait a minute here, they shouldn't do it. They're collapsing. But what they're doing is you see, look at the shoes.
Yeah.
See the guy behind him? Look at his left foot. Boom, look at that. It's quote unquote falling in, right?
Yeah, it is.
But what we're doing is we are doing the best we can with the structure that came before us, right? If you look at look, boom, you see his right foot?
Yeah,
You
and
see
his foot is as he's pushing his foot forward, his foot is pointing outward a bit.
Yes, yes. His foot is pointing outward, and that gives him this acceleration angle off the inside.
The best people are just intuitive. How much thought has he put behind that? He probably doesn't give a fuck.
Probably very little. And
Right?
it's only through injury and pain that motivates you to seek solutions.
Yeah, maybe.
But look at his left foot. Look at his left foot. You see that right there? Boom. Boom. Most people who are in the exercise game would be like, oh,
Look
he
at
needs
that left hand, by the way.
Yeah, there you go.
That pulse coming.
See his double down pulse?
Boom. You see it specifically
Boom.
that left. So we call that
Boom.
sided. He has an emphasis on like that little.
He's left foot. He's the left foot runner. Usain Bolt is a right foot power. Tyson Gay is a left foot power. Most people have a left foot power because you're right-handed and you jump up with your left foot.
You got to also keep in mind, like he's in very specific shoes. This is
Those are the Nikes.
This is him hauling ass going full blast. You know what I mean? Like who knows how he normally trains, but that one foot does look like, how does he not have pain there from that thing getting so much torque? The heel keeps going in, but he is toe striking too, right? I mean, he's hitting that toe first, right?
No. Look at it.
You don't think so?
No, because I've looked at it super slow. You see how you see that?
It's that heel.
Outside.
He's like middle foot, maybe. I understand. I think.
Yeah.
Is it the outside of the
right
foot?
there. Yeah, it's the outside.
I want that shoe. I want to feel what that shoe feels like because I don't think I could even understand what's happening.
I've tried it on.
without
It's a
that shoe.
very propulsive shoe. It's a very fast shoe.
And you probably, as you hit, you don't feel those shocks up the system.
Well, what's happening is he's yielding at the precise time that by the time he's there in that position, his weight is off it. So he's not collapsing. He's actually more forward in it and is creating an acceleration angle that facilitates that forward motion.
There's also another possibility that he has looked at that and like maybe him and his coaches decided, hey, it's not worth it. I had a guy here that we were working on his bench press and we were trying to get him to bench 900 pounds. And he benched very crooked. He had a hard time locking out his one side. He tore a tricep at one point. And I was like, hey, let's see if we can have you bench, crooked and on purpose, So we just took his hands and we shifted him way off to the left where it looked like it totally wouldn't work. And it totally did work. But a mistake that I made was I was trying to correct his body on the bench too, because I noticed I'm like, he's really off center. When I'd look down at him when I was about to hand the weights out to him, he was always like, halfway off the side of the bench. He never even realized it. But we tried to make some corrections in training, and he actually got hurt a couple times. And he was like, I don't know I'm like, I think I fucked up as your coach. I'm trying to help you to straighten out, but I don't think we should even mess with it. So maybe in this guy's case, maybe it's the same thing.
PowerProject family, how's it going? I want to talk to you guys about Within You Supplements, which is developed by Mark Bell. The cool thing about Within You is that it's not a crazy supplement line which has a crazy amount of unnecessary supplements. They stick to what is necessary. Whey protein, electrolytes, and the electrolytes are dope because they have amino acids and they have zinc. Then there's fasting gum. So we talk a lot about intermittent fasting on the podcast, and this fasting gum has apigenin, rutin, and caffeine, which can actually help you prolong a fast. It's really freaking cool. It was developed by Mark and Joel Green, who we've had on the podcast multiple times. So you guys got to check it out. Andrew, how can they get it?
Yes, that's over at markbellslingshot.com, and at checkout, enter promo code PowerProject10 to save 10% off your entire order. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
So can I say something real quick?
Yeah,
Because
please.
something with that shot that's really cool too is we keep talking about the feet, and this all started with us talking about walking.
Yes.
And actually it came back to something else you said earlier. I wanted to say is that you were talking about like it's okay to keep doing the thing if you're going to keep like and just to work on stuff while and don't stop what you love doing, right?
Right.
And like you wouldn't have told your girlfriend to stop walking right then and there, would you?
No.
Oh, well, you're heavy footed right now. We're not gonna walk anymore.
I picture Nsima laying down on the pavement, like listening to her.
Yeah, I know.
I just told her to
This is
just pay
odd, yeah,
attention to it.
But you see what I'm saying is like she can work on something that she doesn't have to think about, just standing on that based on what we said about those soul studies.
And
Right?
Nsima
Like, that's something that
definitely
can help.
would bring that up though. Like, babe, you need to work on your heel striking.
Careful there.
Flapping around like an animal.
But something that was really cool with that is we were talking about those pulses earlier, and his hands might be telling his feet to hit that way right then and there at that time, right? The hands integrate the feet.
Boom.
And that's our big thing, and that may be perfect for him at that time. So
I got to just
we can
also
sit
say
here and overanalyze it,
I'm
but
a fucking chump too. So like I would never try to criticize. I don't know anything about running.
But he's got beautiful pulse, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
So his
right.
hands are telling he's meeting the ground how he needs to meet the ground at that time. But
Yes, and historically, this guy has incredible longevity,
Yeah.
right? So he's not injured now.
He's killing everybody.
Look, yes, and look at if you go back to Ricky Henderson. Ricky Henderson had tremendous leg strength, tremendous hamstring strength.
Those hammies.
Unbelievable. The rumor was that he could sit in the dugout, put a quarter on his thigh, flex it, and pop it up and catch it.
I wouldn't doubt it.
You kidding me? Like, bing. And
See, we
when
can bring up some Ricky Henderson.
yeah.
And when
he's
you-
fucking jacked. as
it's
hell.
hard. It's hard to find good footage because back then,
Yeah.
they had video that wasn't as
Oh,
precise.
stealing bases like a
Yeah.
motherfucker.
But stealing bases. But you see, when Ricky Henderson runs, he almost heel strikes because he has such strong hamstrings that he could pull himself.
It's like a little ball of muscle.
But it was the angle that he was able to get to that acceleration angle, despite the fact that, for all intents and purposes, his heel was hitting first. And
you mentioned to me, you said, jog like you just hit a home run.
yes, for
That's
an
an
athlete.
interesting way.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's such a good
one. One of the trainers who we like a lot, his name's Greg Coppins, and he basically taught a bunch of kids. He's like, "You just hit a home run. Now run with the pulsers." Boom, boom, boom. Because for an athlete, running is punishment, right? Oh, you stop screwing around. Put your gloves. Run around the field 4 times, right?
Yeah.
But a home run, running is a reward.
Yeah.
So if it's a reward that you're going to enjoy and savor, well, now you're more apt to do it with that greater
got
joy.
that chest up too, and you're
Yeah,
happy.
like,
You know what I mean?
boom,
It just
boom.
encourages, gets that head up, those eyes
Yeah.
that we were talking about, right? It just does that.
But
Joy.
there's certain sort of broad stroke realities where the tendency is going to be a certain way, but there are not hard and fast rules applicable to everyone. Because some people are just fundamentally different proportion, different, hip, depends on your ancestry. Like, I can't deep squat. My hips are not made to deep squat, so I'm not going to chase the deep squat because I'm working against my structure, the skeleton.
Even before your hip
Even
issue?
before. I
Okay.
just, like, the Maasai warriors, you don't see them sitting down weaving a basket the way that, the little Asian guy will do and sit there for 10 hours and he's resting. The Maasai will actually pull up a log and sit on it elevated. And what are they good at doing? Jumping.
Yep.
Right? And if I'm jumping, I don't want the long, femur head coming, with so much room that I can squat to forever. I want less of an angle so I get more translation into the vertical force. So if you're from that ancestry, odds are you won't squat as well. Michael Jordan, LeBron James, they're not doing deep squats. They couldn't get into position.
And people roast LeBron for that all the time. It's still on the internet.
Well, I
People
think it's
post
really
that up for
important
some reason.
that people understand, like, and this is something I thought about over the last several years of like doing this podcast and trying to bring people together and trying to get certain people here and just trying to, like, I don't know, like, be somebody in the industry and like get to know different people. I kind of started to think, like, just don't chase people that don't want to be caught. But I also think that you shouldn't chase things that you can't catch anyway. Like, I don't want to say that you can't catch it and you can't do any better, because you could certainly squat lower, but you may have some restriction in squatting as deep as somebody else. And I think that's healthy. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that's not really me. I can work on that. I can improve on that. And who knows where it will go, because you don't want to put limitations on it.
Right.
But I also don't think it's a great idea to try to catch. It's going to be very difficult to catch everything.
Sure.
So you got to be a little cautious on what you're trying to go after.
Yes, absolutely.
You don't need to chase something you don't care about.
Well, and a square peg.
Don't waste the energy.
Well, a square peg through
just
the
somebody
round hole.
told you to. If you don't actually care about it, why are we putting time into it?
Well,
right?
I remember when it was sort of, several years back, that 2012, 13, 14-ish, like the deep squat, like you're a substandard human being. You can't sit down in your deep squat, right? Oh, okay. Well, I better do that, right? Well, if you're working up against buttressed against structure, bone structure, it's going to take a long time, and I'm probably doing damage if I'm improving my range of motion just because my skeleton doesn't like to do it.
Yeah.
Right? And it makes you better at certain other things, perhaps. Right? So there's always the give and the take. And some people are so naturally gifted that they can do it all.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw Ben a bone too, Ben Patrick, because ever since you've kind of been like exploring ATG and all that.
By the way, I love Ben
I know,
Patrick.
he's obsessed.
Okay, I got a man crush on Ben.
but
He's great. He doesn't shit talk people either. He continues to take things in from everybody.
Yes.
Well, and there's other people that will. Anyway,
yeah,
you were saying.
But Dave, he squats with a slant board now, and he squats deep. So he's sitting here
right.
talking about how he doesn't squat deep. But
Right.
the other day, I'm sitting at my desk in the lab, and I just hear, I never squat this low. I never squat like this, and I love it. So you know what I mean? Like,
Well,
and it was a positive. That mentality behind it was positive.
and I
And
got-
there's something good.
Well, and I got something to say too about this,
Okay.
because I remember I was at JFK Airport. It was late at night, and I was waiting for a taxi because there's no such thing as Uber back then. All right. Actually, I think I was waiting for the subway because I was so cheap, frugal, and there was a cement sidewalk and then a cement slant. And I remember standing on that slant, and this is so many years ago, and I was standing on that slant and I was squatting down. I was like, holy shit, this feels really good. But then I was too much of a wussy you're going to put something under your heel and you squat, you sissy. That was absolutely forbidden in the weight room. Like, what? You're going to elevate your heels, you little pussy. Like,
Yeah, with the 10-pound plates and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. I mean, that was literally, if you did that where I came up, you get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Get the hell out of here. No, you got to have them on the ground.
But this comes back to that idea of regression, creating an environment that feels safe and comfortable.
That's
for
what
somebody
Ben's genius is.
Yeah, it's
Ben's
making that
genius-
accessible to people, and let's just change the mindset and all that.
People
right?
will be so uncomfortable trying certain things that they'll be very distracted.
yeah.
You know, you guys were showing me some stretches and some movements, and like I can sometimes just be like a little bit of a slow learner on certain things. You guys saw some of it. That was my history growing up as a student, and maybe I'm stuck there somehow in my own memory or mind or whatever. But it usually does take me a little bit to pick up certain things. But like if you go to show me a certain stretch, you're like, hey, come over here and try this on the ground. Immediately, I'm thinking like the ground even kind of hurts, you know, like kind of hurts my butt, kind of hurts my hips. So
Yeah.
I'm still at a stage where I still have to kind of be almost like a cat, like when a cat is like about to like lay down where they keep circling, you know, I got to kind of circle and kind of feel things out a bit before I go and do the thing that I'm about to do.
Sure. Yeah.
Yep,
Got to get comfortable.
Body scan. That's that body scan.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know
right.
your body. That's your little scan. Like, hey, this is not right now. And either you can put value in it and find a regression to go after it, or wait on it. Right.
Well, let's go
and-
back to what you said about the squat too, is we have to reframe, you know, we have to reframe our brain, because you were saying that like you have so much trouble with a squat, but you're thinking of the typical squat. You're thinking of the
Right.
way that everybody else squats.
Yep.
And you can do your own version of a squat.
I
and you
do
can
my
it
own
just
version.
fine.
I
Absolutely.
showed Nsima the sort of that float
Right.
where I said, the pinky line, and how I can literally just go like that, and I don't need my heels when I do it.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
it's interesting too, because everybody is riddled with some level of imbalance, and your organ system is just, asymmetrical in the first place, right? So if I am elevating the heel and letting the heel hover in accord with whatever the tensegrity balance, tensional balance of the rest of the body, I, by de facto, almost zero out the asymmetry, because it makes an adjustment. But if the heel is pressed into the ground, well, now there is no leeway. So wherever the imbalance is becomes the hot spot. So I'm a both sides utilized guy. So I don't want to say, oh, never do that one or never do this one. I would say seek to optimize the polarities the best you can, and that gives you the biggest expanse in the middle is what we want. And let me also say, one of the reasons why I love Ben Patrick so much is because he can practice with proficiency what he teaches. Yes. And vertical jump is like the most precious athletic thing that, like, you come to me and you want to gain 5 inches of vertical, that's going to be quite a mountain to climb, right? Are you 13 and you're going to get it by the time you're 17? Well, that's going to be easy. But to be a grown man at 22 years old, can't grab the rim, to slamming it down with an authority that is, I mean, it may be the greatest athletic transformation that I have ever been aware of is Ben Patrick himself. And so, okay, I want to learn everything that you have to teach now because you're doing something so extraordinary. And he, like the BOSU ball, that guy gets attacked by snipers all day long, right? You know, constantly people crapping on him. And it's like, it doesn't even register in my brain. Like, how the hell could you crap on? He could jump over you. Right? I don't care what you're saying.
Yeah.
By definition.
I want to add something to what you're saying there because, like, I mean, we had him on, but before he came on the first time last year, I was already doing some of this stuff because, like, I had surgery in one of my knees because of soccer, and my knees were in pain. I started doing a lot of that stuff. My knees weren't in pain anymore and I had deeper ranges of motion. But in what you were talking about, as far as people, like, for example, attacking his methodologies, I've been getting a lot of comments and seeing a lot of comments from individuals from functional patterns. And they're saying, oh, these bros are going to get knee replacements in 5 years. And I just see those comments. I'm like, why are you guys trying to make people afraid of this? Because the only way someone's going to get a knee replacement is if they overdose this shit. If they load it heavy and they're doing it like in a dangerous fashion, they'll fuck themselves up. But that's why this dude makes regressions. And that's why he doesn't talk about overloading these things. Like, it's like other groups are making people afraid of trying training methods. And that's what kind of pisses me off. It's because, like, okay, cool, you believe so much in what you're doing. And that's great because there are aspects of what you're doing that's fucking awesome. Yeah. But then why must you then take what you're doing and make people that are like, I just want to feel better and I just want to move better, you make them afraid of trying things. What is that? Why do you do that?
Well,
shit?
that's sort of clawing your way up to the top, crabs in a bucket. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, what's my USP? This guy's, you know, he's blowing up. He's on Joe Rogan. I'm jealous. Like, I mean, come on. That's really what's underneath it. And, you know, and I look at it like, you know, I go to prowess, fight and flight, right? And I've had personal experience with some of these other, you know, we get lumped into the alt fit category. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, we're side by side by these names. We're like, I ain't side by side. I'm underneath you, motherfucker. You know what I mean? I'll lift you up.
Yeah.
You do my shit, I'll make your shit better.
Exactly.
And I can relate to being attacked and having a chip on my shoulder with the BOSU ball because I was just furious, and I held my tongue for more than a decade because I knew it would just be putting fuel on a fire. Yep. Right? Because they're just going to shit on me. If I try to defend it, I'll just get shat on some more and just more awareness to getting shat on. Right? And so when I really started making these profound discoveries, I was like, okay, I'm going to ram it down your throat because, you know, function, results, rule. But that doesn't work either. Right? Because our bodies, our brains are geared so that the intellect serves the limbic system. The limbic system is what matters, and you will rationalize anything to be okay emotionally, right? So you will have people with unreasonable, irreconcilable differences, right? Christian and a Muslim, they're going to different heavens.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so there's no convincing either one, right? So with the body, there's certain truths that this logo here, I created this logo to represent. This is gravity. That's the constant. It's when and where. So where is this, but it's also when is a rate of acceleration of that mass to the center of this planet. right? And so this gives us the fundamental timing and the fundamental position. Everything stems from this. And then it's rotation. So it's up, down, all around. And if I'm good at moving up and down and I have the sides, well, then boom, I've got something that's underneath. And the people who conceptualize something where it's like, oh, I need to train rotation. I need to train rotation. And I have 3 planes. And this is frontal, coronal. Like, but your mind even does a hitch just to remember what the fuck to say. Abductor, adductor. Like, I remember I used to have little mnemonic tricks. Add in. Okay, yeah, it's my adductor, right?
Stalactite, stalagmite.
Ah, crap. Got me there. I don't remember anymore. Which one's coming up? Which one's going down?
Well, and I think it's also stalactite.
I know. I think I'm way off.
Right? So what I'm interested in is that, like, tear down the walls between your workout and your life, right? So don't just segment off, an hour when you're going to move well. Let's move well all the time.
Yes.
And a little self-care, a la Kelly Starrett, where let's check the computer and sit on the floor, give it a shot, right? Change your position if it's uncomfortable.
I saw a guy yesterday come out of the bathroom at Phil's Coffee, and there's like a washing your hands like station. It's not in the bathroom. It's like a shared thing. And I saw the guy like fixing his hair, and then he kind of walked away. He was a heavier guy, and he didn't look very fit. So I was thinking to myself, I was like, man, imagine if he wanted to look better, So he took a second, he looked in the mirror, he made himself look more presentable. And I was just thinking, man, like, imagine if I don't know if he has that care or not to his fitness. I got no idea, but it made me just maybe just think, like, imagine if people viewed their fitness a little bit like they do with their hygiene. You recognize your deodorant is wore off, you recognize your breath is weird, you recognize, whatever it is that you have to recognize. I mean, if you have a hip that's bothering you, or you have mobility stuff to work on or strength stuff to work on, why not view it like you're brushing your teeth? Do it twice a day, a couple times a day.
And why not set up a situation where maybe you could, have something in your car that, you can just wedge into, and get a little myofascial release while you're doing something else.
Yeah.
Right? Why is it restricted to, like, and the worst
Work
thing,
your grip while you're driving.
Yeah, exactly. And
this comes back to every step stronger, Dave.
Yeah, every step stronger.
Every step is a rep in what we do.
Yeah.
And our training, whatever passion you have, powerlifting, whatever it be, kettlebells, I want to do gymnastics, I like dance, whatever it is, it all comes back to the same foundation of each of those steps is a rep. And everybody's training every second, and we can accumulate repetition, and maybe I don't have to put more time into the gym. We kind of like block those things out like they have to be these things. I think I heard you guys talking about like doses of
microdose.
Microdose, right?
Yeah,
you guys are joking around microdosing, right? And it's
Microdose.
just like, that's what walking is. It's a microdose, right? And if every one of those reps is more proficient, and then I can spend 15 minutes in the gym and work on mobility or whatever I think that is, and I can steer it towards something I know I'm going to be doing every day anyways, that walking, we can get back on getting that rhythm and feeling great, right?
well,
What
and
you got over there, Andrew? Because we are deep in a conversation over here and leaving you out in the cold. Sorry about that.
I'm trying to thank you for flipping the shot clock in. I mean, Chris and Nsima, if they started a podcast, it'd be the best sounding podcast. Both your guys' voice is incredible.
All right,
it
here
is.
we go,
That's
Nsima.
true.
Let's do this.
There you go. Yeah, you get deeper.
Making Andrew wet over there.
I know. Well, it's like the Howard Stern thing, when he gets his voice real deep on the speaker. Yeah, no, I'm trying to pick up the pieces because like I missed everything out. I missed out on everything this morning, so I'm kind of bummed. But real quick with like the soul steps and everything, that's what we have a promo code for, right?
You have a
All
promo
product.
code for everything WeckMethod.
Okay, we'll let everyone know at the end of the episode what that code is, but just so everybody knows, the 20% off code of all the stuff that we're talking about will be available soon. But yeah, no, for myself, not sure how familiar you guys are with me, but like I've been dealing with some low back issues for a while. I've been doing a lot of GOTA stuff, so I'm working with Gary Scheffler, which I know you're familiar with. We won't go like into that because I don't think it's very productive. But
I would agree.
yeah, but so for myself, like I'm just focusing on like exclusively groundwork right now is what we call it. It's the stretching, some of the stuff I'm sure you're familiar with as well. Because like when you were talking about like connect like that bend, I can do it just fine on this side. This side I have a shit ton of pain. So like where is square one when it comes to the WeckMethod for, I know it's going to be person dependent. I have low back issues. What's like kind of like like 101, like what's step one when it comes to trying to, like, I guess it's going to be evaluate, but once you're evaluated, where does somebody go?
Well, what I would say about the lower back, like one side you have issue to get there, begin by doing this. Create as much length as you can on this, so it hurts when you bend to this direction.
Correct.
Focus on the length that you can create on the other side. So that length is going to open up the possibilities of everything on the restricted side. So it's two ways, right? So
no, absolutely. That already helped.
Already helped, exactly. So
weird.
what we want to do to enhance our ability to rotate is we want to verticalize. So if I can verticalize, and this is Nsima, you know this just inherently from the jiu-jitsu and those type of things, I can turn a corner if I verticalize. And we stem from our original means of locomotion was the brachiation, where you're hanging.
I was about to talk about that, because that's what I was about to tell you. You mentioned groundwork.
Right. So what we have to understand is that if I can take this, the gates that are the shoulders, and I can create greater length, now I've got much more play to work with to find what feels good on the other side. But if I just come here and I just try to bend down, I'm not getting the concomitant assist from where we actually even came from, right? You're way up here. And the whole trick to hanging is that there's no muscular shortening whatsoever. It's connective tissue continuity, so that the orangutan is not sitting there flexing a muscle. He's just hanging from structure. So that gives him the ability to tap the proximal connected to the distal.
So even when you're closing down the shoulder to the hip, you're still not pulling, because it feels like if you were to lock in your lats, it's going to be pulling down on it, right? Or am I wrong?
But you have to have the other side up.
The other side comes up.
Okay.
Again, think of hanging from a bar, single arm, monkey bars. A great opportunity of it. That's locomoting in the air, right? That's the simplest way we do it. We learn it as kids. We go across the monkey bars, right?
Of course.
And that's what I would say. A lot of these people that are like in these factions of like functional or alt fitness and stuff like that, a lot of it comes from like analysis of ground movement. Because we all do it, and it's something that, like, that's where the big bucks are, too, in sports and things like that. So there's a lot of research and thought around that. But, like, aerials are something that's, huge to take and analyze it. And
when you say aerials, what do you mean?
Because think, like, me and my wife own pole dance in the studio, so I'm in that world.
My girl likes to do pole dance.
It's fun. I love doing, like, aerial silks. I used to do that, and there's a lot to that. And
what's an aerial silk?
So like an aerial silk, it's literally like, think Cirque du Soleil. They have these huge fabrics, and like you tie yourself up in them, and you can like support yourself and do stuff like that.
We have a pole and a lira in my home.
I own 2 pole studios. So I have a ton of poles.
I have more poles than you.
But again, just this idea of like taking all the information I'm learning from the groundwork, and can I apply it to an aerial athlete now? And if I'm like, oh man, that doesn't work, then am I really rooting in something that maybe is actually fundamental? Or I work with the swimmers, and like, can I put this same information into a fluid where they're reacting to something around them at all times? They're not just thinking about that ground force.
And their shoulders are always moving that way.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So like, if you could think of that stuff, then you can always sort of like come up with the other side of it, and like you'll start recognizing that like long creates short and short creates long, and like it's both sides all the time.
A really interesting thing about some of this is when you train your lats, if you do kind of pull down, even if you do a single arm, like not just a pull down, like obviously it works great on the pull down, but if you do like a single arm row, if you just twist to that side and pull down towards your hip, your lat just goes
It's that biomechanics.
It's all fired up.
I want to throw one more thing at you too, and we were talking about this, was that external cueing. It's like, I'm watching you over there, and you did a little side bend to try to feel it, and you're like, it kind of feels weird, but it's like you're internalizing. Your eyes are going in. Everything's about this thing, not the thing you're supposed to be pulling that to project it towards something. We're creatures of motion. We need to be putting force into things or moving. And that idea of having that external is really going to help you like make sure you're getting as much as you should be getting.
Well, and having a goal.
Yeah, the goal.
Some goal that now your body's going to start to organize better because it's for a purpose, as opposed to like, oh, what am I supposed to feel? Like that type of
makes sense.
And it's both sides. I mean, you do want the internal scrutiny of it, but if you give somebody a task, now they can focus on that. And one of the cues that I give to Mark today is just don't think. and the body will naturally sink, right? And because thought is too slow for real-time movement, right? So if I'm thinking, I'm behind it, right? And I'm not in it. And so I need to take my mind off of it to actually do it. And if you want to have a chance at actually incorporating that which you're training, you have to have the subconscious competence to actually use it. So if what I'm being instructed to do requires conscious concentration on it, and then it doesn't relate to the pattern, which we don't need to get into, but I will never be able to execute it no matter how many reps I do, because I have to think about it to do it. And then real time, that's way too slow. And it is the both sides that I think is very important in terms of understanding how you're going to optimize the balance of the system. So if I forbid you from going to certain places that you're going to actually go to, well, now I'm not preparing you for that which is actually going to happen, and you don't get the counterbalance effects of assisting the other side. And one of the things that we do is we do non-dominant side training. And what we do is we use a compare and contrast principle. So today we had you doing a race and chase with the right hand on top, right? That feels better for a righty than the left hand on top. The one on top is racing and the one on bottom is chasing. And the way we do it is we compare and contrast. So if you were going to do equal amount of reps, you're not doing 12 here and then 12 here. You're doing 3 or 4 here to feel, why does that feel good? Now go over here. Okay, let me go back. Let me find it. What is the dominant side actually doing? And a lot of the times how you enhance the non-dominant proficiency is you teach the dominant side how to be the non-dominant side. Throwing is a great example. A righty's going to throw and just do it, and then when they go to do lefty,
It's all weird.
they don't know to do that, so they go like that. Because the dominant doesn't, come on, you want to be non-dominant? I don't want to be non-dominant.
It's like, what is that doing for your brain too? It's got to be going nuts. You got to have a lot of growth during that time.
Well,
you know what I
yes,
mean?
and I think there's also like there's Alan Alda was on this. He hosted this TV show called like Scientific Frontiers, and he went and he met with this golf performance coach named Deborah Cruz at Arizona State University, and I went out and met her because I was all into this brain balance. And what she did was she would take a cap with all these electrodes on it that measured your brain waves, and then what she determined was that if you can get into some form of flow, alternating, bilateral patterning, crossing midline, the motor and sensory cortices of the brain will sync naturally because you have to from a motor sensory standpoint, and that resonance can now spread throughout the brain globally to create a harmonic state. And if you're doing things like measuring the proficiency of a golf putt or a free throw or throwing darts, and you get yourself into that state, which can be achieved by organizing the movement or finding a balanced challenge that you can meet. It's not too easy, it's not too hard, and both of those phenomena will enhance the harmony of your global brain waves so that now you are in the zone and you will shoot 8 out of 10 as opposed to 6 out of 10, for example. And she has the data that correlates that, okay, when the brain's in that harmonic state, you are always performing better than when it's acordic and not in that harmony.
It wouldn't surprise me one bit if that could assist with helping somebody be more quote unquote book smart.
Oh, yeah, I think so. See, I've gone to places that I think, living on the royalty, right? So, what day is it today? It don't matter. And so, and I'm, very intense. So I went through a phase where years of eye work. And I would take 100 Post-it notes, all, marked with numbers. And I would just randomly assign them all over the bedroom, the ceilings, the walls, the fan, even on the fan. Mm-hmm. And then I would lie down, close my eyes, and I would start a timer. I'd open up my eyes, and then I'd have to find the numbers. And to get it on the fan, you got to almost you got to strobe it to find it. Mm-hmm. And I would calculate how fast I could do this. And I was very disciplined about it. And I coupled that with practicing speed reading. Mm-hmm. And I reached a level of proficiency where I had open a book and I could go holy fuck, I just read that.
Fucking feel like Rain Man.
No, but it was a feeling of like, this like Nietzschean Superman, right?
Yeah.
And I could never sort of get back to that level of proficiency. Kim Peek, Rain Man, he'll tell you all these things, but he can't button his shirt. So if you want to go and direct it all to that activity, you get real good at it, but you can do nothing else, right? So I could never quite get to that. I learned how to read fast so I can assimilate information quickly, right? Learn how to learn, right? So that's the principle. But your eyes, they say that your eyes are actually your brain exposed to atmosphere.
Yeah, literally, they say it's outside portion of your brain.
Yes, it's your outside portion of your brain. And you have a whole, island, or it's Australia back there, right? But sensory motor, the left side controls the right and the right side controls the left. And if I can harmonize the spiral dynamic of that, by definition, I have the motor cortices running a pattern that is resonance. And it does make you more able to focus intellectually as well.
More smarter.
This is cool because this is why I think the ropes, this is really our foundation and what we're doing, the ropes, because I didn't even talk to you guys about it much, but like early on, like you talked a little bit about my like rabid, wanting it.
Right.
It was like, because I was getting some stimulation I had not been getting it. My body was craving, like I just wanted to learn. And then I want to be a teacher. Like I want to give information to people. So to figure out ways to get that information to people was really big for me. But seriously, like that's one of the foundations of us, because you can put so much frequency and so many repetitions in and not have to be perfect. But you're gonna get all that harmonization and you're gonna build up a layer that is gonna set you up for skill acquisition.
It puts you on the path to perfect by definition, because the rope is true. The rope doesn't lie. If the rope is true, so are you, right? If it sounds right with the pulsers, it is right with the pulsers.
It utilizes the non-dominant and the dominant at the same time, and there's patterns that switch that constantly, so you constantly are getting the stimulation, and you honestly feel smarter. Like there were points that I was waking up and like I learned something, like, and I woke up in the middle of the night and I had to go out in my garage gym and like do the thing because it just like came to me after a long day of filming ropes for something we were doing. You know what I mean?
I also want to bring up this, that like, Nsima, you talked a little bit about sort of the Eastern and the mystery and sort of like dismiss that. I don't want to know from that, but there's a lot of just mystery in things, and we have theories about why certain things work and perhaps why they don't. Just sort of lost my train of thought here for a moment. Let me think what I was going to say.
We're talking about weapon.
No,
Is what you're gonna know?
you were. I'll think of it.
In the meantime, Nsima, what was it like with the ropes?
No,
rope.
When I saw this on your Instagram, Chris, I was just like, because of jujitsu and the movement that's in it, I'm like, there's something really flowy here that makes a lot of sense. Because when, like in jujitsu, when you start to understand the movements and you start to flow, you don't think, and then you just start doing movements that you're just like, this feels right. Like everything just goes. And then when I saw you on your Instagram doing those ropes, number one, I could tell this guy's not thinking about shit what he's doing. He's just moving. He's just flowing. And it's a physical activity that you're able to do that with. I've seen you also do that with kettlebells. That's why I've been starting to just fuck around with literally throwing kettlebells around and see what my body does with it. And it feels fucking good. So this is a simple thing that anybody can purchase and add to their repertoire so they can start to feel what that's like.
And you can make your own.
You can make your own rope.
To be honest, we want people
Go to Home
move
Depot.
It's so beneficial for you. Just it's so simple.
I remember what I was going to say.
Okay.
So basically this coiling energy, right? So I'm going to preface this by saying I've lost my mind 4 times. Okay. I've gone to places where it's like I spun out,
You mentioned that you're bipolar. You've been diagnosed.
with an extreme, rampant, and THC for me was the thing that gave me sensitivity and energy. The stuff that would knock somebody out was like, I would get that like, and when I discovered the coil, remember walking the circle for like 4 hours?
Yeah.
Seriously, I ain't joking. And so what happens is when I tapped into that coil, and I would feel that spiral dynamic. It was the Kundalini, right? This yogic thing, right? The serpent within, and it would like rise up, and you would feel this incredible sense of like prowess and like, oh my God, like I'm tapping into it. And early on with DJ and several of these people, I don't know if you felt it, but when you tap into the coil, people start having weird dreams. I did. Like did you have?
I told you, I don't even, honestly, I can't even remember having dreams from like 20 to like 28 when I met you. And then we started doing all this stuff and then lighting up back here. And I just started like having like wild fucking dreams in the middle of the night. And I don't smoke or do it. I'm pretty clean cut on all that. And like, dude, I'm just remembering my dreams and they're wild and like, it's super vivid.
Because again, like the DNA is a spiral, right? And we come from the winners. Right, the winners, and the only way to truly win is to cheat. You and like if I want to, you know, I could set up and I could look like, you know, put a cloak on me and I look like I'm hobbling and crippled, right? You know, Snow White, look at the apple, right? But I'm so sprung right now, and I'm just ready because.
Sprung and ready. And the thing about like in the art of strategy or the art of war, the most sophisticated form of warfare is to your opponent doesn't even know that they're in a fight.
Yeah.
Right? So it's that craftiness, because once you present your hand, all right, well now I know what I'm up against. Right? But if I'm not guarded because I don't even know that you have a hand, that's how we got to where we got to. I think, right? Because one of the things that I've used to understand what I understand is my imagination. So I go back to, okay, when it was just sticks and stones, that's it, right? Well, what if I took my left hand and I had the weapon behind me and, you know, I'm going to shake hands and make nice with bigger man, right? Who's here to eat me and, you know, take my women and my things, right? And what if I'm able to, boom, you know, fool you? I will be your servant. I'll do everything for you. Okay, well, bap. Right? Well, now I win. Now, I'm going to go into a little bit of this language stuff. So I play this game with phonetics and the sounds of words, right? So this idea of, I call it the leash, because my most vital thing is my air and blood to my brain. Air and blood to the brain, that's the definition of you're alive, okay? Now, if I make certain postures where I make the glottal stop of the ing, oops. Oh no, can't really hurt it that way. I discovered that. I was laying in bed and my son, before he could walk, was holding on to the banister of the bed, and I'm asleep and he stepped on my throat. And suddenly I went like that and it didn't hurt.
Yeah.
So, okay, ing, right? And if I want to weaponize myself, well then these are horns and I'm going to be in here and I'm not going to be able to choke out. And if I'm here and I put a smile in, I breathe even better through my nose. And so I sort of say, okay, well, this is the ing leash. And who do we come from? The winners, right? There used to be like 20 or more different hominid species. And what if the Neanderthal was really the eat and hurt all? Oh, really? Right? And what if we're going to bed tonight and we've heard stories about the boogeyman? Sometimes at night they come and they eat us. Oh, shit. I'm going to prepare for that. You ain't going to eat me, right? What am I got to do? Now, what if I can harness the wolf, turn him into my best friend? Now I have the dogs of war. Now that little fire that protected you from the wolves, well, we're going to send in the dogs, right? Because they're going to find you, ferret you out, and I'm weaker. But if I can communicate and I can have guile and cunning and all those things, then maybe I can beat that monster. Do you know that the Neanderthal, their skulls were like twice our size. Their eyes weren't in the middle. Their eyes were up here. And their eyes were twice as big. So they can see at night. This thing is like, he's like a Mike Tyson plus 100 pounds, right? Thicker bones, right? Shaquille O'Neal be up here, the Neanderthal be here, and the Neanderthal just tear through them. So you have to use that cunning and that guile to get, to procreate the seed, right? I mean, what does the lion do, right? The lion comes in and the young lion kicks the big, you know, the old king out. First thing he does is he kills all the cubs.
That's a different line.
yeah.
You won't take mine now. He gets 3-4 years in the king's seat, and then he gets chased out by another one. Right? So it's this procreation and just the playing the game of life. And we're so layered. Humanity is so complex, and there's so many layers. And in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Oh, really? Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Math. You mark, look, and join. Oh, the new test. Amen.
Holy shit.
And that's it.
I could see the play on words there. Jesus.
There's he's right there.
Yeah, he's right there. He's like, what are you guys talking about?
G
So-
is us.
So there's destructive criticism and there's constructive criticism, which you can build off of, right?
Yeah.
In seeing some of the things that you've seen that are out there from GOTA, from the functional patterns, like what are some of the things that you've seen that you guys might have in common, that you guys feel that there's maybe some synergy there that some folks are talking about? And what are the things where are some of the areas of contention where you disagree?
Can I start with this?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so first off, I want to say that we haven't actually studied with them, so I don't exactly know what they're saying. So I want to start there.
Yeah.
And just put that out on the table.
Okay.
And
Yeah, you're not familiar with all their stuff.
yeah, you know what I mean? Let's see what they put out. And I would say the commonalities is I think there's a layer of commonality in regards to locomotion on the ground for sure, and thought process there, and like fascial lines and things like that, 100%. And then the other thing I would say is you should absolutely go and learn from everybody. I would encourage that 100%. And this is that thing with factions. Like, I'm not gonna beat any of them up. Like, go learn stuff. A bunch of coaches I taught, like, they went over there and they learned stuff from them, as they should, because if they're interested in something that we taught them and it's another route to learn from it, why wouldn't we go learn it?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And then that all comes back to like empowering yourself and learning something and applying it yourself and seeing what works best for you as an individual and stuff like that. So we can toot our own horn all day if we want. We can say it's the best thing in the world, but we got to learn things. We got to be underneath everybody, and everybody's got to be in agreement with that, and everybody has to go explore things and feel that for themselves if that's what the truth is. So that's where I would start with all that.
Well, and what I would add on to it is, you know, there are egos involved. I have a very big ego. I've been humbled in my life so that, you know, the ego has been in check, but I still have a desire to be the best, right? And I'm not going to pretend that that's not real. I'm going to honor the fact that, you know, I need to be the best. Otherwise, I'm not happy, right? So Steve Cotter said, like, you're not the best at anything in the world, so you created your own little niche to be the best at, right? And I would say that that's probably accurate. And I think, you know, the functional patterns and Naudi Aguilar, what I have in common with him is sort of a messianic complex where, like, I'm here to save the world and, you know, I'm the greatest thing ever. And you know what I mean? Like, so, okay, you know, and there can only be one. So it gets competitive, right? And what I would say, just in terms of what I know about what he does, what I would say is that my biggest critique would be too much transversy and not enough 3D, right? And it is a funny story.
So 3D would be like
3D is the
incorporating
coil.
both
It's
side bending and
Correct,
diagonal patterns, I guess.
right. It's the figure eight
Okay.
and the head over the foot, because like I know these people and I've had relationships that started out as good and then they went sour, right? And that's just the fact. And I remember one night I was like, I'm gonna F with Naudi. So I sent him a message. I took a picture of him running on his treadmill, right? I did a freeze frame with the head in the middle on the left and on a freeze frame with the head in the middle on the right. Hey, how you doing? Just wanted to give you a little tip. You know, it's going to make everything you do better, head over foot. I hit send and then 3 dots. Fuck you, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to get my lawyers. He didn't want the pictures to go out. So in that sense, I preserve my standing as like, I'm the guy who told you to do this and now you do this. Okay, who's your daddy, right? No, but I'm just being real.
Yeah.
I'm just being real because you're real, right? And then with the GOTA guys, Gil came to me, studied with me, and we had a great relationship. But then it turned into...
Yeah, you used to talk about Gil Gary to me all the time.
Yeah, I
was
liked
looking
them a
forward to meeting
lot.
him.
I liked them a lot.
Yeah.
But then it turned into like a money thing, right? I want to invest in... Dave, I'm here for the money. Like, I want to invest in what you're doing, right? Well, we don't take investment. Okay, well then I got an invention. I want you to license it. What's the invention? It's a slant board. Oh, okay. Well, it's not an invention. Okay, that's the first thing, right? You tell people to use it. I just go stand on top of my roof if I want to do that. I'm just, putting in a little jabs. I'm being real. So that went south when I think he had too much to drink one day and he sent me a text message that crossed the line. And I don't think you get sloppy with that text if you ain't, nipping at the thing at 11 a.m. All right? And I'm just saying what I think. I don't know that, but I know what I got. And I know that you failed the foxhole test, my friend. And therefore, that's it. We will never, ever be that. Because you don't betray my trust. You just don't do it.
Regardless of that, what are they doing well and what are they doing that you're like, nah, I don't really think that? Because you mentioned in both cases you had good relationships with both.
Yes.
So when in terms of GOTA, like what have you seen where you're like, oh, I think that has some good utility, or what have you seen that where you're like, nah, I don't think that's the way it works?
Well, what I would say is that in order to truly understand movement, you have to use as many tools as possible. So cadaver science is useful. I'm not going to throw it out. I want to know that the tendon attaches here and not there. It's been instrumental in my understanding of movement is that I know the anatomy and I understand the kinesiology, right? So those are very important things.
And they say to throw that out pretty much.
Yeah,
That's
which is
what they
nuts.
say, yeah.
Which is nuts. Why would you... Why would
Don't
you
remove tools.
Yeah,
use
right.
tools.
Yeah,
and
use the tool.
gain
Bruce
things
Lee,
from them,
absorb
for sure.
what is useful and discard the rest. It's a very simple formula, right? And so I would say that to not avail yourself of that knowledge and information is a mistake, and it will lead to perhaps less understanding and then less utility. And then what I would say is that personally, if I'm going to learn from you, you have to practice with proficiency what it is you teach. And neither Gil nor Gary can move worth a damn, okay? You got to flick your heel out, otherwise you're the worst of all time. Well, he doesn't flick his heel out. His heel goes in. Well, how's this coding going if you can't even do it yourself, right? So that's one. And then fundamental misunderstanding that it's not just how fast, how far, how long. It's can you even get there in the face of opposition? It's fight and flight. It's not just flight, all right? It's not just forward locomotion. The ability to turn is actually more valuable than the ability to just go straight, okay? And when you do a drill, where I call it this, stomp the cigarette out. So if I lunge forward and then I pivot my back foot and I think that that's helping me pattern locomotion, it's actually a fight application because when I pivot the back foot like that, my center of mass winds in on itself. It's going backwards, going in the wrong direction. And if you look at the gait mechanics, when the ground hits, it's not a pivot point, it's a reception point and a departure point for the rest of the foot. So I'm not landing and doing that. And it's impossible to do, right? So you can do it till you're blue in the face, and it might have some benefits that now, hey, you're focused on not falling into the middle and you're focused on harnessing the outside edge using the green dot. That's the one, I coined that phrase, green dot, right? And so you're the strongest gym in the West. You didn't come out here and say, I'm better than fucking West Side, right? They have a board with more points on it. Okay, and you put points on it. I didn't like it, the fact that what Gil did was he turned on me and suddenly everything that I do is fundamentally wrong. I stole his invention, but he shits on soul steps. Well, how did I steal your invention when I got this complex slope that's patently distinct and you got a slant board? How did I steal, right? And I take these accusations and the toxicity, I acted like a real jerk on the internet for a couple of years in just fighting back against the BOSU bashing. It drove me nuts, and there's thousands of people out there who shit on it all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and these are the people. This is not the, the personal trainer who, she trains 2 people in the afternoon and goes to Lulu and has a Starbucks. No, these are people who turn on the lights. They get there early. They're the last to leave. They go to these conferences. They learn. They have their CSCS and everything's science-based, and the BOSU ball makes you weaker. They're fucking college professors in grad school. One of them, Dave Barth, told me this. I don't know if you know Dave Barth, but he's, big into strength. He went to Kutztown, or I forgot what it was, but it was some college, a graduate program, and the professor comes in, he says, when the BOSU inventor found out that his invention doesn't work, he lost his mind. It's like, that's not why I lost my mind, okay? I lost my mind for other reasons. It was not that. And this is a guy who's teaching the next generation of the people who want the best information. And so to tell me that my BOSU ball is a piece of crap, it got me so angry.
Yeah.
It got me so angry. And I realize now, and thank God that he was tolerant, because he hates when I went to this place, right? I mean, he didn't like it.
I absolutely hated it more than anything on the planet.
Right.
I don't like negativity. Language is so key.
Right. So thank you for your patience, because now I'm not so much in that place. I mean, I'll tell the truth, and I'll throw some jabs when necessary.
Yeah.
But what I want this to be is, I want it to be like, all right, I'm throwing my last punch, boom, and then it's over. It's just over. Let's move forward. And I can forgive, but I can't forget. And I'm going to move forward, and eventually this will just take care of itself. Meaning, let the cream rise to the top, and, you got your boat and I got mine, and let's go, right?
You think you would be here if it wasn't for Chris?
Here?
Just in general, in life. Because it sounds like you hit some rough spots, and you got divorced and went through a lot of different things.
Well, let's put it this way. I have other people in my life who've been with me longer, who have been of that invaluable assistance. So without them, I wouldn't be where I am. I say that Chris is new in my life, but we have a special bond that goes beyond words, and there's an inherent trust and mutual respect. So what Chris has done is he has made WeckMethod scalable, and we have the principles drilled down because he enjoys training much more than me. So I like to work easy. Like, I don't like to work hard. I mean, he'll tell you. Like,
you like martial arts a lot, but you don't love
well, here's what I
lifting.
like. Here's what I like. If there's a 203-pound kettlebell, I'm going to lift that thing 17, 20 times, swinging it until my grip fails, right? We got a Bulgarian bag challenge. Give it to me. I'm doing 300 freaking reps, right?
He's ready. You see that? Like, he doesn't train. He's ready. Or he trains, but it's to do things like that. He's just ready. He wants to do something, so he does it.
When we had that Bulgarian bag challenge,
you did.
I just picked up the bag, and I'm like, all right, let's go. Time it.
Yeah.
I got the coil, right?
Kicked my ass in it too, which is
Yeah, I
surprising
beat
because
him.
I'm really good with the Bulgarian bag.
Yeah.
I was like, what just happened?
he tried it like 4 times in a row trying to get to my number, right?
Yeah.
But it's the skill with which, and I worked so hard when I was in high school and college. Football was everything to me. And family's going on vacation to Grand Canyon. I can't go. I can't miss 2 leg workouts. You kidding me? Like, I got to gain weight. If football was everything to me. And so I know that commitment. I know that fire. Like, I watched Bigger, Stronger, Faster again, right? Then I watched the Prescription Thugs for the first time. Then I'm going to watch everything else that Chris has done. Because the Bell family, you're special. You have this, like, I love the fact that you're honest. You're just God's honest. And that, to me, that's the rarefied, like, okay, that's a foxhole guy, right? That's a guy who'll stand there and say, you know what? I'm going to take this thing because I have a certain objective, and that's what it's going to take. And okay, that's what it is. You're not bullshitting, right? And I view you as sort of a voice of reason, and you don't have any dog in the fight. And you even said to me, like, if somebody calls somebody else an asshole, that does not color his view as to what good can I learn from that individual? Because you're a West Side Barbell. How many assholes got together, right? And they all sort of, competitively, cooperatively competed to ratchet each other up.
That's good.
So that, and I view this as like, this is the beginning of a relationship. And again, physical education is fundamental education. And the better we can physically educate the populace, the stronger we can all be and the more honest we can be that if the king ain't wearing clothes, perhaps you'll have the strength to stand up and say, I don't see the clothes. Because right now it seems like the world is, oh, he's wearing clothes. Okay, yes, he's wearing clothes. Yes, oh yeah, my mask on, I'm wearing clothes. It's like, come on now. This world is going to hell in a handbasket if we're not careful, right? Mm-hmm. And there's just so much corruption and so much nonsense and so much bullshit that it's like exercise or physical function is the one thing that cannot be denied. You cannot lie to me. How many push-ups can you do? And I think that is so important. And competition and cooperation, those are the two things. When I played against you on a Tuesday practice and we're face to face and we're hitting, right? Mm-hmm. It is all out war with mutual respect. I'm going to beat you or you're going to beat me. We're going to find out who is the better man so that on Saturday, we're both better. But if we had held back on Tuesday and, then you ain't going to be any good on Saturday, right? And so it's a balance of cooperation and competition that gets the most out of your human being. Yeah. You don't want to play jujitsu against somebody that you can beat, with one hand tied behind your back. That's not fun. It's
very boring,
right? And you don't want to get in there with a monster who's going to, you better tap, otherwise he's going to rip you apart, right? You got to find that balance and then get up to the point where that monster is you could play with the monster.
Yeah.
But you want to. Jordan Peterson says you got to become a monster inside and then be cool. Because if you're not a monster inside, then you get walked over. You don't got no choice. It's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. Mm-hmm. Strength is never a weakness, and weakness is never a strength. These are things that you can live your life by. If you just had a book of phrases like that and you just said them all the time, life would be easier. And I get up every day, every step stronger. And I'm not disciplined in the sense that I would have been had I not had a royalty. My internet presence is all over the fucking place, right? You see some stuff, it's just completely confusing. I don't optimize because I've just been gestating in this world where I haven't had to do it. And now I guess I'm finally seeing the sense in doing it. But still, I want the work to speak for itself. And I just want to pass it on so that people are more empowered. Because I want strong people. That's what I want in this world.
Tell us about this fists thing that you blew our minds with earlier today.
Oh, okay.
God,
so basically, yin and yang, right? I prioritize the bones as number one. Because without the bones, I'm a blob and I got no leverage to do nothing, right? So the bones are number one, and then it's the fascia, which has the direct tie-in to the nervous system. And the fascia, for lack of a better definition, is just basically that which surrounds and separates everything. So every little actin and myosin filament within the sarcomere is enveloped in a layer of fascia, connective tissue. And the innervation of the fascia is far more dense than the muscles themselves, right? So, and it's connective. And I believe that fascia has its own mechanical intelligence, meaning if I touch something hot, it's got to go to the spine and come back, or it's got to go to the brain and come back. It takes time, right, for that signal to register. Fascia, I think it's mechanical. I think it's innately intelligent. And if you hit it, it sets up, right? So it's there for you now. You don't even have to send a signal. It's independently intelligent. That's the way I think of it. And with the hands, I was in Chinese medical school. And what I did, when I go to learn something, I go and I do it on my terms. So I went to Chinese medical school. I had an amazing class with the founder of the school. And I was like, can I work at your clinic? I will do anything you ask me to do. I will not be paid. I just want to be in your presence. So that's what I did. And he was very laissez-faire. So I did a lot of stuff, before it would be sanctioned in terms of the only thing I didn't do was stick the needles in terms of that. But I want to learn and learn and learn. And then the meridian system is actually this map that is if you know the meridians and you can track the sort of direction of it, it makes perfect Western biomechanical sense. And it's complete gobbledygook until you can get to that understanding.
Is there something that he can pull up for like an imagery of what you mean as far as the meridians?
Yeah, you could type in like, Chinese acupuncture meridians, the 12 meridian system, and it'll give you like this map you're just going to see a bunch of dots and a bunch of lines all over, right? Yeah. And it looks completely. I remember when I showed up at Williams College in freshman year and I got the playbook on the defense, I would fall asleep because I was just like, this is complete Greek. Sky, cloud, cover 3 cheated, 5, 2, 1. Like, what? I couldn't make any sense of it until sophomore year when I got thrust into the starting job. I had to like study like it was a course because football is a game of the mind, more so now than ever before.
Yeah.
Right? So the meridians, when I first saw them, I couldn't make any sense of it. But as I gestated in it and I was practicing the martial art, I was starting to say, oh, okay, I get it. It's yin and yang. And there's like, see that, you can't make sense out of that. You know what I mean? It starts with the lung and it's a very complex system, but there are apps on the phone that show you the meridian and then shows you like a tracking. So you can literally, like, if you're patient enough, you can like sort of, all right, the lung, okay, boom, it comes out my thumb. The large intestine comes back in. The stomach comes down. The spleen comes up. Heart, small intestine, bladder, kidney, pericardium, triple warmer, gallbladder, liver, back to lung. And you can follow that sequence, and it gives you these like bilateral torsions and the different stuff if you're playing.
Is that kind of like Tai Chi or something like that, or no?
Very much like Tai Chi.
Okay.
Tai Chi means supreme ultimate fist. And basically here, I had one guy, I've had a lot of teachers who give me invaluable little nuggets. And one of them was a friend of mine who said, the 3 Chinese internal martial arts are Xinyi, Bagua, and Tai Chi. And the way that you understand them is with relation to a circle. Xinyi cuts the circle. Bagua circles the circle. Tai Chi is the center of the circle.
And when people
and
are
all
listening,
things come to Tai Chi.
Dude, that's CCT, BTT, RMT.
Yeah.
It really is.
and this is the thing, like I'm listening to this and like I'm trying to make sense of it in my mind. I'm being open to it, but when people have heard, especially like Joe Rogan or individuals talk about these martial arts, like, that's bullshit. Because when an individual that does this tries to fight somebody who's a boxer or an MMA fighter, it's like, they'll get right. But this is different from just pure fighting.
Well, yes. Well, here's what it is, okay? There's a lot of people pretending, okay? And unless you can defeat the hard, you got no right going soft. Right? Soft can overcome the hard because it's receptive. Jiu-jitsu's ultimately going to win if it's one-on-one and there's all the time in the world, jiu-jitsu wins, okay? Not so practical in a street fight if you're going to be laying on the ground and buddy's going to be kicking you, right? But everything has its strength and its weakness, right? So this stuff is... Well, and I know I take it on a tangent, but if we're talking about the structure of the hand, I got to it from this spiraling movement, moving the distal extremity with the least amount of effort, the fastest that I possibly can, right? And it's basically this, and it naturally winds up to this. And there's different meridians. Like if you do it enough, like I did it, then you come here, and then Floyd Mayweather gets hit, and you go here, right? And what it does is it triangulates and creates a bone circuit through a triangle. And if you think about in geometry, the triangle is the strongest shape because each angle buttresses the other angles. And so when I can triangulate the bone structure, I can put massive force through the longitudinal axis of a bone. Think about what your femur has endured with 1,000 pounds on your back, right? And now put yourself horizontal and put the weight on your femur that way. It's the longitudinal, the bone's going to hold up a house. So you put it that way, it's going to snap easy, right? And so when I make a ball up fist like this, that grab onto mommy, hold on to the tool. This is a necessary thing, but it's for the purposes of holding something. It's not for the purposes of going to extreme tension here. Because here I don't have the balance between the flexors and the extensors, because the flexors cave in upon themselves and they create a structure that does not have integrity. Each metacarpal is disintegrated from the others, that when I triangulate it like this, it sharpens it, it integrates it. I don't break these things. You could put, you put hundreds of pounds of force into that, and it's strong inherently. And then what it allows us to do is it allows us to be soft and fluid, because the bone is already hard. And in terms of like the Tai Chi guy that gets his ass kicked by the second year MMA guy, that's what happens. But see, I'm not interested in that kind of Tai Chi. I'm interested in, can I clear space? So I don't even think about like fighting. I think of Lawrence Taylor and Mike Tyson, not just Mike Tyson. So Lawrence Taylor is going to displace and replace your mass with my own. Whereas Mike Tyson's going to sit there and hit you. Lawrence Taylor's going to plow right through you. And so I like that idea, that I'm going to come and I'm going to present something to you that's going to force you to react or get hit. And then from that reaction, I'm going to be invisible for the next transition by not letting you read what it is that we're in contact with. And then when we're playing that push hands game, that's why I'm good at it. Because when you get me, I'm like, oh, he thinks he has me, right? So I'm just going to do that much of a yield. Up, you're off the line, and now I have an easy path. Right? And so you have to earn the right to be able to use this Eastern stuff and not pretend, right? To pretend. Tai Chi is the forms, right? The forms, and then it's the push hands. That's the whole thing about it. And you have to be able to deal with hard, otherwise you're just pretending. And everybody knows that, right? Except for the people who get hypnotized, and George Dillman gives them a no-touch knockout, right? And Joe Rogan laughs, as he should, because it's ridiculous, right? But if you want to set up the bag and the meter, and you want to see who can put more force into the bag, I want to play, right? Let's see, how much can you put in? And I'm 60 pounds less. All right, let's see if I can do as much. Right? And this has allowed me to train it to the point where I have legitimate physical skills.
I wish there was a video we could pull up of like you had your I don't know what they're called.
Oh, the punching pads.
You had those punching pads
These
on,
things,
you were literally punching the fuck out of a wall.
Well,
right?
That's just to demonstrate that this has a lot of protection for how thin it is. But
even without that, you could punch the wall with no problem, because of what you created. You just can't punch it like full blast without.
I can't punch it full blast. And what this does on a wall, I just do it as a demo. I will actually use hard surfaces to bone up. Like I'll actually do that, but it's gentle. So I'm boning it up. I don't want to create the damage. But if I punch the wall hard, I'm going to cut myself, and then it's harder to train the next day.
But it's the way you're making it. Oh, go ahead.
Thai fighters that like kick bamboo trees, and they just kick so that they can build that calcium up in their shin,
right?
And just
listen to this theory, okay? So again, we're gonna get a little geeky, but I believe the bone structure is a crystalline matrix that creates a piezoelectric jolt of electricity upon compression or percussion or a pressure change. So a crystalline structure, if you hit it or bend it, will create this piezoelectricity. So I think that your skeleton could actually be an antenna at which your soul resonates into your bones. Jesus couldn't have any broken bones, so they pierced him, but they did not break him. Right? So, and I think it could be that your bones are an antenna, and the hairs, that's an antenna too. Think about, why do some whales have vestigial hip bones? And like, what the fuck? There's a whale, and you know this, right? There's vestigial thigh bones within some whales. It's a mammal. Right? That means it probably was out of the water and then went back in the water. Why did it go in the water? Maybe if I have this hair, that's a route in for certain electrical signals, right? Your hair can stand on end, right? You get frightened or whatever. Spooky, airy, fairy, so scary, right? You get under the water. Well, short circuits all that bullshit. Now you can't scare me that way, motherfucker. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and this, I'm just letting it go wild, right? And it's just because this is my thought process.
Yeah.
So what I do is I have no filter or concern about what I'm willing to entertain. And I simply say, what if ... and I play out scenarios.
I love that.
And I'm not married to some conclusion or preconceived notion, and I'm not afraid to ask a stupid question.
That's like an inventor mindset.
Yeah. What
like
if?
if you were to ask, especially like a little kid, say, hey, what do you think the worst idea would be for an invention in the gym? They actually would probably, once they went through 5 or 6 things, they would probably give you something amazing.
Very well.
You'd be like, that actually makes a lot of sense.
As opposed to, no, that's a stupid idea. Go sit down.
Right.
Okay, now you just cut the well off for inspiration.
It's like a good business thing to mess with too, and it's fun. If you go around a table and you got a think tank, say, hey, what's the worst idea you can come up with for our business? And what will happen is people will start to think, they're going to say that is really dumb, and they're going to go through their brain and they're going to say why doesn't it match up with their beliefs, and they're going to say, hey, you know what, actually that was not that bad of an idea really, because we could do this instead. And then the whole room gets talking.
It's the catalyst. It's the catalyst for like, oh, like, you know, it can start a fire.
It allowed somebody to reach out and to do something weird.
My invention process is this: when we strategically sit down to create an invention, which we're doing now. So some of mine have been sort of flash of inspiration. BOSU ball, what if I cut the ball in half? Holy shit, what if I cut the ball in half, right? I mean, I recognize that opportunity big time.
Which martial art was that, going through the middle?
That's Shinyi.
Shinyi, you Shinyi'd it.
Shinyi just cuts the center, right?
Yes.
But other inventions like these things, this is like, you know, thousands of hours of perspiration and not the, I mean, I do look sort of like a bookish, wimpy guy.
Can you walk us through what you're doing with your hand, just for the people that are just listening that can't see?
Yeah, so basically my middle finger, if I snap my middle finger and I use my thumb to snap my middle finger, that's going to land my middle finger where I want it to land for the fist that I'm going to hit with. Okay, it's not the internal one that I showed you guys. This is for the purposes of using it to ring the wrist and to strike.
Okay.
So the middle finger snaps and it stays straight. The last digit, that can't bend. If it bends, you short circuit it and you can't triangulate. Then the index finger folds down, same thing. The last digit has to stay straight and it overlaps. So the mnemonic is snap, overlap, and then the thumb wrap. So it's snap, overlap, wrap is what sets you up to have it. And then what you do is, I like to train this, I call it the AOK. It's my peace sign right here where 4th and 5th go, and it looks like a peace sign. When I showed this to my son in the very beginning of this discovery, he goes like this. He saw that and he interpreted that, right? Because it looks very similar, right? And so basically here, when I do that, and then I just fold the 4th finger to come and nexus with the index finger, and so I have the connection of the thumb and the 4th finger, that's the path that gives me the longest, strongest, and the most compressed coiled.
I would love for some people out there, if anyone's listening that does any sort of MMA, I think that this could be a revolution of sorts. If people try this, and this is something that they find utility in right away, it's a simple, easy tip that might.
Well, what I would say, and then this again is why I was so excited to come up here, is because again I view you as the Gladwellian tipping point, a voice of reason who has the respect of strong people. Right? Because when we were younger, what we cared about was strength. Okay, I don't care. You wanted to be stronger. I know you did, right? I know you did. He was stronger than you, and you wanted to be stronger than him.
Mad scientist laugh.
But what I'm saying is that's as real gets.
Yeah.
And you find out where you are in the pecking order very quickly, right? And the measure of strength, as you were saying, can be different. But in our coming up, the measure was Monday is bench day. And how much do you bench? And in New Jersey, there's no such thing as a squat. Okay. You have pencil legs and you bench 500. Right? So the the strength and the prowess comes from sort of the skillful usage of the body. And what I would say is that it's not if it gives you super results fast, it's get the skill and measure the result.
Yeah.
Don't shortchange yourself by saying, oh, I didn't get it. What the hell are you talking about, right? You're going to learn a G chord. Some guy's going to be able to do it first, and some guy's going to take 3 days. But the guy who takes 3 days could be a better guitar player because he took the time to learn it.
Yep.
Versus, the tortoise and the hare, right? The tortoise won the goddamn race. The rabbit was faster, right? And both sides utilize. Make yourself as fast as a rabbit and then run the damn race, right? Like train movements and muscles. But if we're going to ask, like, what movements should we train? Well, then I'm going to propose to the industry, and I want positive peer pressure to be applied with a lot of pressure, and positive because we're all going to move in the right direction.
Pressure.
It's positive peer pressure. What I'm going to say is that I believe that the most valuable athletic skill that you can have is to have the ability to have true balance, meaning you could shift your weight and be balanced on one foot, balanced on the other foot with no disturbing the balance. And if I have that skill to move with balance and continuity, because balance is 100% or you don't have balance. Because if you're not 100% with balance, you can't move right now. Right now, you got to set up, right? And so my proposal is that head over foot is the simplest, most effective strategy to balance your walk, right? And I think that just the skill set of manipulating the rope back and forth, right? Learning how to coil each side, learning how to use the spiral dynamic to your advantage as opposed to more linear 3 planes of motion. No, it's all happening. So when I do this, transverse exercise, you're still in the sagittal plane, right? You're still in the other plane. So you want to conduct your whole self like that. And it's so simple, but it's elusive if you don't have the paradigm of understanding of it. When I was 18 years old, I would not have understood myself now. And I may have walked away from that guy going, that guy's nuts, right? And I would have puffed my chest out and said, oh yeah, right? How much do I bench? And at 16 years old, I stopped benching. I was like the second strongest kid on my team as a freshman with the bench press. And the guy who was stronger than me outweighed me by 40, 50 pounds, right? I had a powerful bench because I got a big chest, right? And then that went away. Literally, you go from, okay, we're knocking on the door of 300, and now you got 0, right? That's a blow.
Yeah.
And for me, I was always so body conscious and so socially nervous and anxious. Like, I would like roll the one sleeve up and, I'd have to flex all the time. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like, I was always embarrassed how small my arms were. And like, it was just a mess. There was so much just internal turmoil with the dissatisfaction. I used to sit there and look in the mirror when I was 15. I would curse my parents. I was like, my mom gave me freckles and my dad gave me skinny legs. Like, what the hell? You know what I mean? So what I would propose is that we, as an industry, we focus on function. Relate to gait is the most logical thing to relate to because it's that you walk to the bench, you walk to the swimming pool, right? You walk over there, over here. That's how we, that's the baseline. And if you can relate to that, it requires that you figure eight and you use the spiral dynamic. And it is so simple. And see, what I see is this coalescence of Kelly Starrett. Very few people have the capacity to break things down and simplify them and articulate them so well, right? And now I have a relationship building with Kelly Starrett, right? And he loves the rope. He believes that it's super scalable and super effective. And he's contributing to the art by saying, he did a post the other day. He's like, put the rope here and just do shoulder mobility, right? And by proxy, you're getting the coil, you're getting the rotation, right? You're getting the coordination. And he just made it super, super simple. And so he snuck it in, right? Because we do a rope flow and you see me do all this weird shit. Now you're like, that's fucking bullshit. I don't want to do that. But Kelly Starrett tells you, hey, we're going to loosen up your shoulder. Right? And we got a feedback of the rope. That's how we win, is we we put a little sugar in with the medicine and make it easy and palatable. But just the fact that you're talking about this and even entertaining a conversation with this alt-fit, crazy mad scientist, guy with a gadget trying to fool everybody and make money, right? So there's suddenly credence. And a lot of people are going to be exposed to me, to Chris, to WeckMethod that would have never been exposed or even had the inclination to be exposed, right? It would be no interest. Like, what has that sissy got to offer me? Right.
I want to, help people get out of pain, because I think that pain and or fear is a big thing that is keeping people on the couch. There's so many people that, unfortunately, there's a lot of people that are very overweight, and they have to figure out a way to try to control their diet. But I also am aware that they do have some pain. They do have some ailments. They have tried to walk to the mailbox, and maybe they haven't tried to walk enough, but like, getting that negative feedback from your first time in the gym that your ankle hurts or your elbows hurt or whatever it is, I would like to really strip everyone away from as many excuses as possible. It's not an easy thing to do. We talk a lot about mindset on the show. We try to present as much stuff as we can. But I'm a big believer that you can't fix the mind with the mind. And I'm a big believer that you can't fix the body with the body. They have to work together. It's body, mind, spirit, and this stuff that you hold on to from when you're a kid is part of what's kind of bleeding into your system today, leaving you reserved about your shoulder or your hip or your this or your that. And so it's very hard. These things have been sitting there for a really long time, these injuries or these mental things that you went through, whether you were abused or neglected or not hugged enough or not loved enough or whatever, or your interpretation of the way you grew up, you felt gypped compared to your brother or your sister. We all have all this like crap, that's happening. And so, I've looked to like rehabilitation type of things, that's kind of what I would view a lot of this movement stuff being, like a recoding, a rehabilitation. Like, let's get you back to gaining some access to the way that you used to feel. Because when you were 7, you weren't like, I wonder if I should get off the couch right now because my friend just knocked on the door and he wants to go do something. Like, you're like fucking running out the door, fired up, like hoping that your buddy's at the park. Like, you're riding your bike around, you don't see him, and then maybe you see somebody else and you ride towards them. You're like, is there anybody out here like fucking throw a ball around with me or whatever? And so I would like to get adults to that place where they feel like they have that energy and they feel good about themselves, so they can go do whatever it is that they want to do, gain access back to what they used to be able to do, what they used to love.
Yeah. I love this. And honestly, we've been talking about the rope a little bit on this. And again, that being that tool for us, that really is super accessible to everybody. And we kind of talking about mobility and stiffness and all this stuff. And that tool is really exceptional at meeting somebody where they're at, whoever they are, and you can find ways to regress it and make it super easy for something. And there's a whole lot of aspirational stuff it can lead to. So it's a great place for somebody to develop skill set, to get a global understanding of how they themselves actually move in space, not how somebody else wants them to. They can deal with it. And then there's things that can make them move better in it. Great, whatever. But there's no negativity for even like just starting with one of the patterns and just getting it right, and just building, where am I at? Sorry. But yeah, just like building on that and developing that skill set is just going to help with this person globally get more mobile. And that's it, man.
I love some of the stuff we've been exposed to recently just because of the amount of reps. And Nsima and I were talking one day and I was like, if he and I was setting up a workout for somebody and we're like, hey, you got to do, 10,000 reps of legs today. You'd be like, oh my God, like what? You're like, I don't even know. But if I said, hey, we're going to go outside, we're going to push around the tank, or we're going to pull a sled, and we're going to go down and back 200 yards, you go, I go, back and forth, and we're going to do it for like 40 minutes. We might have accomplished that amount of reps. So I like ideas that are like that, where it's like, let's move this rope around. Let's punch a bag. Let's do these skills and these disciplines where there's so many reps going on and there's so much movement. Even just punching a bag, if you learn how to throw your hips into it and things like that, you'll be expressing a lot of the stuff that you guys are sharing. So
exactly.
I just would really love to see people I know that people have a lot of determination, and I know that people have a lot more discipline than they give themselves credit for. They have discipline with their children. They have discipline as a fireman. They have discipline as a mother. They have discipline as a sister or a friend or whatever. They're always there. They're super reliable, but they're not there for themselves. And that's what I want to see change. And that's why I don't mind inviting, like, I had no idea there was all this like infighting in this world. I know. I kind of walked in the room and I was like, hey, that guy is cool. That guy's cool. That guy's cool. Let's see if we bring everybody together. And I was like, oh,
Wait a
shit.
second.
They all hate each other. But I don't care about any of that. I just want to
the amazing thing.
present the information to people. And then your explanatory knowledge of what you guys know is going to be the stuff that floats to the top if it's explained well, and if it's stuff that people are like, damn it, like I don't, that goes against some of my former beliefs, but I should give that shit a try.
The empirical measurement is ultimately what matters in the reality, right? Because otherwise, okay, if it doesn't empirically make me better, okay, it could make me feel better, and that might be motivation for many. But we are competitive, and that's why there is drugs in sports. It's just because we're competitive. And if I believe you're doing it and you believe I'm doing it, well, we both have no choice but to do it. Now, my journey on this depth began with pain, back pain. I rollerbladed for 6 years. That's all I did. My feet got so weak. I picked up my motorcycle, strained my back. It gave out on me, and I was in pain. And if I knew now, it would have been a couple days. You know what I mean? Like, just a couple days, I'd be better. I was in pain for a year where I was squirming, and I just wanted it to go away. So I took little Aleve pills, and I didn't read that you're only supposed to do 2 weeks, and you're only supposed to take 2. Months and months of taking 6. And I just eviscerated my digestion. I gave myself a leaky gut, got the candidiasis and, all sorts of problems from it. And it was when I discovered the stability ball that is what tuned me into this. If your body is in pain, there's a certain bracing, protective tension from these little spinal muscles that are trying to save you. And the job is done. It's like swelling, right? It's like we can all go home now, right? The trauma's over. Let's play ball again. And so my back was seized, and it was always protecting itself in that sort of way. My feet were weak, so I really couldn't get it. But there's also a phenomenon of if you have a reflexive writing adjustment, it's almost like a neural reset. You know what I mean? So if suddenly you have to react, you're moving much faster than thought, and it's a jolt that leads to an immediate sense of relaxation after you've had those jolts, right? So it's, I'm cool. Because it's a panic, right? I slipped on the banana peel. Nothing else in the world matters for that moment that me not busting my ass, right? Or breaking my wrist or doing whatever I'm going to do. So the stability ball gave me that, and then I saw Paul Check standing on the ball, squatting, the 135 pounds. And that put the idea in my head, like, shit, I'm going to try standing on it. I didn't lift weights on it, but I stood on it. I remember I got a pull-up bar, okay, and stood on it, and okay, let go a little, let go more, okay. And then I got to the point where I could, jump onto it. I could literally, squeeze it and lift it and jump, and I could jump from one to another. And I took several falls. But when you're doing that active stuff, you're prepared to fall, so you're ready for it. But then I went to the other direction, the Feldenkrais stuff. And I'm watching the New York Knicks lose to Spurs or something. I remember the game I was watching. I was on a 75-centimeter ball. That's big. It's not just a normal one. It's a bigger one. And I'm standing on it, and I do this Feldenkrais thing where I close my eyes, and I go like that. Oh, no. And boom! I fell, my butt hit the ball, I did a backflip, and I landed. I was in a 200-square-foot studio. I landed in the kitchen from the living room. And the first thing I did when I fell was I kicked my feet to make sure that I could still do that. Because I was terrified in my brain that, I just might have broke my neck. And it was that night that I was like, I'm just not going to take these risks anymore. I'm just not going to do it. And I was laying in bed well, I'm getting better. How do I continue? I was like, geez, what if I cut the ball? What if I cut the ball? Because that was the .com, and everybody was, I quit my landscaping business. I'm a day trader. Oh yeah, and you make more money, but not for long, right?
Yeah.
And so that idea of like winning the lottery, right? You know, having some invention that makes you financially secure. I was a starving actor for almost 10 years. Where, you know, I grab extra napkins at the burrito store so I don't got to buy toilet paper. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like frugal, right? So I saw the opportunity at a BOSU ball and I just knew. I was like, this thing has so much utility for so many different people, for so many different things. And if I can patent it and be first out in the market, well, then this might be it. This might be my ticket to being able to have a family and support them.
Yeah.
Without having to log the hours, right? Work real hard. Life is a marathon and not a sprint. But there are times when you better sprint your ass off, because if you got to catch the bus at 11, you get there at 11:01. Well, guess what? If I got there at 11, I'm sitting and moving. And if I got there at 11:01, I can move and I ain't going nowhere. Right? So that's the business, right? It's a marathon. You'll be in a long haul. But there are moments of emergency where you better sprint your ass off. And I'll bet you have a whole bunch of war stories of how you climbed the ladder to be successful the way you are. I got so many war stories of, you know, being at conferences and, you know, the other guy who's teaching his class with the stability balls, he sent the compressor back before I got to use it because he's like, fuck you, right? Oh, okay. So I have to blow up with 350 BOSU balls with a hand pump. Okay, this sucks, right? But I got to do it, right? You got to carry that water.
PowerProject family, how's it going? Now on this podcast, Mark, Andrew, and I, we talk about fasting a lot. We talk about the ketogenic diet and a lot of different types of diets. But Bubs Naturals has a product. They have the collagen protein, which is amazing. They have these apple cider vinegar gummies, which are like crack. But they have
They are.
these, they have these MCT oil powder packets that I've never used to do this, but in the morning I'll wake up and I'll put it in coffee, and the smoothness, number one, in terms of the mixing is amazing, but the consistency of my energy through the day because of the MCT oil powder is peak. Andrew, how's your experience with it?
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. It's like the best way to start the day. You're satiated, you're energized, and you're just ready to crush the day. So if you guys want to get in on this MCT oil powder, head over to bubsnaturals.com and at checkout, enter promo code PowerProject to save 20% off your entire order. Again, Bubs Naturals, promo code PowerProject to save 20% off. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
Yeah, I got my thought back on when I was talking about the rope with you guys.
Yes.
I wanted to talk about the mindset of that and like the winning mindset. And you were sort of, you were talking about like just somebody sitting on the couch and even thinking about getting up to answer the door of their buddy or maybe going out because it may not even feel good type thing, right? And I think what people need to, if they're like just getting started out or something like that, like we do the rope because we feel like it's something that's super accessible, but you need to find something that's accessible for you to find little wins. It doesn't have to be this huge grandiose thing where I'm setting like a PR or a record or something like that. Or you can put the mindset of everything new you do that you accomplish is a record and a PR in your life. And I think finding sort of those little wins starting out can turn into really big things. And if you can put it around something like a tool, like learning to use a kettlebell was sort of my first wins. I had a lot of really bad experiences in the gym working with barbells. Like coaches were throwing weights on me and it didn't feel right and nobody was coaching me right or whatever. Never felt good. And I sort of had to find my way back into the gym. And kettlebells happened to be that way. I kind of got back to the iron and I got wins from it because there was a moment to stop and think about the tool and to work on myself and to develop a skill set. And it just like, it's addicting in a sense, like just feeling good, right? The movement and the mindset, the combination there. And that's what I said is that rope for us, I was trying to lead back to that idea that one allows you to get like such a high frequency of wins. Even if you don't know you're winning, you're winning. You know what I mean? And then if it doesn't feel like a win, stop. It doesn't matter. It's like, it literally doesn't matter. But if you took a couple steps and you won a couple times today, great. You know what I mean? And if that you can build on that understanding of stuff, then you'll crave new skills and you'll want to learn more. We were talking about book smarts. Like I was roping and it made me want to go learn more, look up more things and explore things in a different way and think outside the box a little bit. And it can it's just a starting place for us that you can really start getting down that rabbit hole, especially if you have nowhere to start type thing. Right. So that's where I was going with that. I want to make sure I got that.
And then also the concept that we sort of hit on before is what I like to say, if I sort of take the 40,000 foot view into things, I want one set, infinite reps. So if life is happening. This is not a rehearsal. This is it. That's one set. What if every step is a rep? And I'm going for that infinite number of reps. And then I bring it into, okay, it's 5 sets of 5, whatever you want. But if you always look at it as like, okay, I want the carryover to not being in pain and feeling like if I want to do something, I can. So simple.
Yeah,
so simple.
Yeah.
Right? So simple. And I think that strength, we talked a little bit about this on the phone in the text, where when we came up, it was like a bully culture. You know, the strong picked on the weak. There was a certain hazing that was ritualistic.
Yeah.
In my high school, you know, senior would come up and piss on the sophomore in the shower. Like, you know, that was just, you know, okay, you're going to take this shit and that's it. And like, I always had that, like, you know, energy about me where I'll bite you. Like, you're not going to do that to me.
Bite that dick off.
No, I ain't going to do that. No. Sorry.
We're giving
No. Was that John Wayne Bobbitt? No. I shouldn't have followed it with that.
All good.
But it was sort of a culture of you know, the weak being preyed upon by the strong. It's no match anyway. Why are you getting your jollies beat, you know, picking on the weak kid? And kids are mean. Kids are mean. And today it's even more complicated because now they can ostracize you. You know, 3,000 people get to see that bad picture and video you doing something. And it's this existential thing that's worse than getting punched in the face. But now I think we've reached a stage in just the human drama, human story, where strong men can be caring and share with the younger generation that, look, you're not proving anything by being mean and being a bully, right? And that's that positive peer pressure, because you get enough of that kind of behavior and then it's cool to be the other way. And I think that that's, again, and there's a certain amount of just starstruck that I have, because like, you don't understand, like from my world, strength was everything. And you have legendary accomplishments, right? And a will, right? And I remember seeing the movie after knowing, and like, there's people who, like, it's really cool to meet certain people. And again, I was just so excited to have this opportunity because again, it's legacy and it's contribution. And if we can literally help physical education so that people can make every step stronger, think about the world in 50 years. I don't want some technocratic, dystopic, like we're all going to sit in our buildings and drones are going to say is, you know, resist the urge for your soul's desire for freedom. Oh, really? Shoot me now. You know what I'm saying? And it seems like that's where we're going right now. It's insane. But I think what I look at as I listen to people and I, you know, sort of borrow from certain good ideas, I think the idea that this whole past couple years has really exposed and taken out of the shadows that which has always been corrupt. It's just reached it's reached a proportion where it's flowing out of the buckets now, and we can all see it. And if you're deeply honest, like, you know that it's all, you know that certain things aren't right. Something's rotten in Denmark. And now that it's been exposed, every one of those motherfuckers is going to die in the next 20, 30 years anyway. They got to be replaced anyway, right? Let's fill it in with the next generation that just has a different motivation. Elon Musk is doing things that theoretically could make the means of production so efficient that a human being does not have to do a menial job ever again. There would be the means of production, you could live with opulence, and now you could flourish with the arts and the creativity and the sports and the things that are, you know, truly engaging, where it's, you're not being beaten down and, you know, having to go drive the UPS truck. And, you know, it's like, well, won't people, like, you know, lack a sense of purpose? Well, is your purpose to sweep up the street, or could a robot do that? And now you could play a game with your kid instead. So I think that the potential for humanity to sort of come out into a whole new world order that is about the quality of life, the quality of the life, and it's all relationships. That is the number one thing in life is relationships. For me, it's my family and my friends. That's all that matters to me, and my work. Those are the two things. I lived a very exciting life in my 20s in Manhattan. So I got, and I saw a doctor and I got rid of it. So I like putting it a little.
Yeah.
But, and I don't want to be too Pollyanna here, but that is literally what I want to accomplish, is that people have better information so that they can move better, because that's actual. And then the mindset can grow within that strength, and confidence is everything. I don't know if you guys remember the actor Jack Palance, who would do the one-arm push-ups at the Oscars, you know? And he had that commercial about confidence is sexy. He was ugly as hell, but he was sexy because he was confident, right? So anyway.
I was wondering, can you explain, because like we talked about the propulsors, the ropes. Can you explain the RMT clubs? I think there's one right there, and how I'm curious like that. But then also, you know, a lot of lifters have been listening to this episode and we've been talking about a lot of things. But after this, I'm really curious how like a powerlifter, a bodybuilder can take this stuff and take certain aspects of it and apply it to them so that they can move better. Because again, if people look at your Instagram, you're doing all kinds of wild shit with all kinds of wild weight. You're just throwing weight around. And the types of movements that you're doing, the spirals and coils that you're getting into, it's like that can be applied to a lifter so that they can lift better.
Sure. Yeah.
This, and then I'm curious about that.
Yeah. So I kind of mentioned this to you guys earlier too. Like I've been working with like mesas, clubs, that kind of environment, like the weighted ones, probably, it's gotta be like 15 years now or something. I was making them in my backyard with steel pipes and stuff.
Yeah.
And a big thing that immediately with that kind of world, if you're sort of familiar, I know Onnit's really kind of made that kind of big now. Like you're seeing that there. That's a pretty big name with that. But that steel club, it has some issues. Sometimes it hits you, it clips you. So like it can be a little uncomfortable. I was a kid and tough and I didn't care and I wanted to learn something. I thought there was benefit behind it. So I'd chase it and I'd knock myself sometimes. So this guy that David invented, I wasn't even around actually when this came around, but that idea that there's a soft implement that can really tap me into some of these swinging modalities similar to our rope. But in some cases, it's easier to learn with a little more load. So like we're putting this in Mark's hand earlier, it actually helped him feel the patterns a little better. That idea of having a tool that's going to give me that security, that mindset in myself that I can explore a new movement, a new pattern, right? That's the number one thing. The second thing, similar to that steel shot we were talking about, like with the Propulse speed trainers, it's got that shift in there. And what that does for us, it can create like a feedback element, but more importantly, it kind of can act like a coach. So it gives you this ability to hear something. You get an audible feedback, which I think we get in a lot of things, but I don't know if we're like thinking of it as like something we're looking for.
Yeah, the other day we were doing some barefoot stuff and we were saying the ground is your coach. You know, when you try to run like on a field, the ground will be your instructor because you're going to run into certain pain and you're going to land certain ways. And you're like, that wasn't a good idea.
Yeah, and you see, you're using the ground as a tool. You're learning, you're using it for feedback. You're trying to learn from it. Okay, and for us, we're like tool wielders. We are all tool wielders, right? We're going to pick something up. We're going to try to apply something to it. We're going to figure things out with it. We're going to hone it. We're going to get better. This guy, because of that shifting and that sound, we can use some specific cues to sort of get to places we want people to get quicker. So like I can remove the sound from it when I'm doing like big circular motions and just working, many people would just say like mobility, doing like an arm circle or something like that, just trying to get traction and space in the shoulder. I could do that, and I'm going to try to remove sound from the implement. And it's going to make sure that I'm actually slacked out and I'm getting the most range that I need. And it's not even... I could look at you do it, I could look at him do it, and me do it, and all of us might actually look different while we're doing it, but the tool's quiet, and it's meeting us where we're at, and I'm learning from the tool, not from coach telling me how to use the tool, all right? And that can be helpful, and we can always correct, but we're going to learn things ourselves the best, right? And we're going to learn from the things that we're holding, all right? And in my mind, I believe that. So that's the thing there. And then when we want to take advantage of the shift, just like the propulsors, we can create those events or those moments to create like a feedback, a spike in force.
Yeah.
So I get like work. I can make 4 pounds feel like 40 or whatever. But it also creates a moment to rebound. And I talked to you guys about this a little bit, where like when you're working with the swinging implement, it typically sort of like as you get momentum going, it sort of has the path it's on. And if you want to change the path, something has to stop and you have to use inertia to stop it, right? Like if it's a mass, right?
Yeah.
With this, I can create that shift or almost that ricochet or pulse, and I can change directions. So it opens up opportunities for like some really unique movement and creating sort of that A-B speed type stuff I was talking about. I'm going to get to this position and this position. Everything in between is going to be free and easy.
Yep.
And then I'm going to punctuate those positions, create more force, and create more understanding of those positions, right? And strengthen them.
Well, I was a collector of the Indian clubs, and I had a lot of experience wielding the club because it's a fundamental tool. I mean, if you think about it, a club goes back to, 2001 Space Odyssey. Give me a thigh bone and let me go beat up a bigger guy, right? Yeah. So I had a whole bunch all the way from, little 1-pounders all the way up to what I think I had a 50-pound or something, like a steel
with that
one.
45 pound.
Yeah, 45-pound one. I had wooden ones that weighed 25 pounds, are huge. And so you can see the speed with which Chris is moving. No other club is going to give you that amount of leeway to create that speed and dynamic, and then the ricochet action where where the connective tissue gets engaged. Yep. So you're learning how to do it, but you're also developing the tissue to do it.
Yep.
And now let's talk about a bodybuilder. There may not be some direct carryover to the bodybuilder for doing that in terms of bodybuilding.
Yeah.
But it may be worth their while to play with it a little bit to give themselves a little bit more of that dangerous capacity that gives them a little bit more confidence on a stage, because half that game is posing, right?
And a lot of bodybuilders don't move well.
What's that?
A lot of bodybuilders don't move
and
well.
And some of them move great.
Yeah, some do
right?
move really
Some of
good,
them move
actually.
great.
Yep.
And what you could do if you're one of the ones who can't move as well, you're losing points in the competition because you're not like captivating. It used to be about sex appeal, Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? Now it's about bigger muscles because it's not sexy to get that big probably. But I think if you looked at it as, okay, if I can enhance my underlying capacity to be dangerous, right? To do better in a street fight, as J.L. Holder says. He's like, if my training doesn't make me better in a street fight, well, what am I doing with my training? To some extent. And this thing is it's a mousetrap that didn't exist that I made so that I could move it really fast.
Yeah.
Right. And I can have more fun with it too. Yeah. So I can have a ton of fun with a tool because I have same songitis. So like when I find a song, like you don't allow headphones in your gym. They make me wear headphones in the gym because I drive them all nuts. Yeah. So I can find those repetitive patterns and I can like grease the groove, as it were, to get it more and more, and I can have more and more fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'll speak on that too. Again, like longevity in a career, whatever that be, right? Like people get hurt. That's one of the things I actually listen to when I talk to people like great lifters or great people that are great at whatever they did in the physical world, at least. It's like, what did you do in your off time, or what you call accessory work, or like what you thought about this stuff? And it typically is like cyclical. It has like some moment. I walk with a sled. I dragged something. I carried things. I handed off kettlebells. Like whatever it be. I just played with a rope. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's these things that were repetitive in nature that alternated, which come back to that idea of walking. That idea of shifting weight, things like that. And what I find a lot of times is something just needs to inspire you, because if you're gonna be doing that, it's usually a pretty efficient pattern, and it's something you're gonna put some time into. I'm gonna go for a 10-minute walk. If that's the thing that inspires you, great. Some people, if it's raining and that doesn't make sense, and I don't like walking on a treadmill, I'm not inspired by that. But I just watched Marvel and I like something that looks like a hammer and Thor was awesome or something like that. I want to swing something around and you're inspired by something like that. That's cool, whatever. That inspires you. So the idea is like find tools. If you need it to be weighted, if you like it light like a rope or a club or whatever it is, Mace, you can play around with the cyclical type stuff. Or again, if you're just after like fast type things like videos like this, I can just work on change of directions and develop
Well, and there's
understand the past.
also a rationale in our training of what he's doing. So he's working on the way he's steering the elbow. So that when it comes down in him, that's a near steer, and then it's a far steer when it comes up. So that's specifically done for the carry over that it will give him in the capacity when he puts the tool down.
Yeah.
Because the tool is a bridge, and Bruce Lee, like it's the boat that got me across the river. Now I don't need the boat because I'm climbing the mountain. You know, that type of thing. We like to say put people on the path to independence so that, you know, you don't go into the gym and wait for your trainer to come get you, right? You know, no, we want to put you on a path to independence and make you more and more capable of self-direction, self-correction, and, you know, of evolution.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, a big part of just the mandate of why we train the way we do.
I want to mention it because you kind of mention my Instagram sometimes, and I do some, like, I'll move some wild things or do some things, and I'll do some things that look outside the box a little bit, and that's fine. And what I'm actually showcasing there, like if somebody was involved in my program, like how do you program, how do you train, and all this stuff. What's really interesting, I'm not like, if I'm doing something like that may be almost looks choreographed, like, oh, this guy practices this, he's just trying to show off type thing. Like most of the time I'm sitting at my desk in the lab and I feel inspired to get up and get my microdose of movement, and it happens just to be that pattern for whatever reason. And I wasn't like choreographing like, oh, I got an Instagram post today, I'm gonna do something. I got inspired to try a pattern. It seemed like it was in my head, I wanted to do it, and I'm able to move through it because I'm rooting it to like all of our movement patterns and our philosophies. So you could just be inspired by a tool and like start moving. You could be inspired by our movement practice and our tools and get after it. But
that's an old video.
That's
right
old.
there.
That's old school. This is like not even quite at with David
But
yet.
look what he's doing with this kettlebell.
This is probably a 68, or I do a couple different ones in this.
But that's the thing. It's like doing this, like when I was working with that kettlebell the other day, after I saw you do some shit, I ended up doing some weird jumping shit with the kettlebell too. It's like, and all of these things, what it does is it inspires an individual to play. Because most things that happen in the gym, it's like, it's like all these systems, like just straight movements.
It was play at one point, but it's no longer.
It's exactly because you know, but like these types of equipment, they inspire you to move in different ways, and you end up playing with these pieces of equipment. That wasn't like I was just fucking around. It wasn't
interesting there, because that's the opposite of the coil. What you're doing there, so you're going long here like this, and so both Chris and I, when we were on the plane, we were like, I want to see Nsima organized, like you controlling the 4 quadrants that we talk about. And that's going to be something fun to watch.
Yeah.
Because you already have an incredible prowess, right? And all we're doing is we're just saying, okay, we're going to optimize a couple key positions, and then you take care of the transitions, and now you have more control over the whole thing.
So he's even stronger in certain positions, right?
Yes. And you'll be able to direct your training so that you can use those quadrants more strategically.
Yeah.
And then have the ace in the hole at all times, because your body will naturally just go there, right? And then the transition to the next thing, and like I said, like God smiled when He made you.
But it's wild because like the stuff we did, please don't forget your thought, but this is still on for me right now. Like it's like usually when I'm standing around, like I'm braced, but like this, it's still on, and it's not like we did anything too crazy, you know. So it's just.
We're just developing the positions right now. I want to touch on that word play a little bit. I think that's becoming a little more mainstream now. I know movement culture type people, we kind of been talking about playing, and we'll juggle and we'll do things. And what's interesting about that is it's kind of in that world of function too. It doesn't have to be something that has to be light either. You can and like you said, like lifting, it was like circus guys and like people that are playing in the yards and just wanted to show showmanship and do things, and it was an enjoyable event. Training doesn't have to be not enjoyable, and I think that's a big piece of people's like first step into things is they're like, I'm gonna set amount of time to do something, microdose or not, big. It's like, God, like I don't even know if I'm gonna enjoy that, but if you can find something you enjoy and just ride it, and that's so play doesn't have to be this.
But is your training ever painful?
No, see, I feel really great. This is the thing.
That's the thing.
Yeah, and I think that mindset of play, if we just want to use that as the term, it controls the intensity. So I never go like all out. So like I can train every day. I'm always ready. I always feel fresh, and it's at a pretty high level. So I don't feel like I have to lose anything. And I don't, if I really want to ham it, I'll go hard. And I want to rest more days, and then I'm not as happy because I should be moving every day. You know what I mean? Like I got a little kid. I want to get up and run around with him and play and show him how to move and do all that stuff. I don't want to feel like I have to sit down and I'm not excited to go out with a family and do something tonight because I'm stiff. Like that's not a feeling I even want, so I don't even go there. All right, so
well, and I'm glad that you brought up the fact that we can introduce some load here, because the biggest criticism for functional training is that you become a weakling.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, okay, great. I did this movement. And then he's like, oh, okay, yeah. That didn't work. Right? So I like to be able to be like, okay, I can't compete with him on a lot of that stuff, and I can't do anything with this. So that cuts me out from a lot of stuff. But I could pick up several hundred pounds and run it over there. Right? And if I had to carry you up the stairs, I could carry you up the stairs.
And so this is something I'm really big into right now. I've been using the hyper sort of as like an ability to get me forward intent. And realistically, like get rid of this whole gym setting, and I'm picking up a hand cart and I'm moving it. Okay?
Right.
I'm hauling something. This is not some wild thing. This is a hand wagon that I'm pulling in a sense. So, but the fact that I can train and I can do something repetitive and I can use the environment of a gym and build on that, that's really cool. Like, and I feel great. And I've had a lot of success with a lot of athletes that when they're deadlifting, they feel stiff or like, again, I'm going to talk field athletes, so not somebody that's specific in the world of powerlifting that needs to get better at that. Right. A field athlete that the gym is like a secondary. They're supposed to be going there. They're supposed to be going there, and they should be getting carryover. And if they're going there and they're feeling sore and they're not able to perform their job on a field, what the heck am I doing with this guy? So a lot of people come to us and then they work with me. They're like, this is totally different, but I can do things that are familiar and still get them big and still get strong and still move weight, and we're there. So
yeah, I think stronger is better.
Yeah.
You know, all things equal, stronger is better.
Yeah.
And you know, the idea again, like if somebody likes to deadlift, God bless you, deadlift, right? So I mean,
yeah. You know, Mark, what is the thing you mentioned as far as the mind affecting the body, and you can't
fix with the mind, with the mind.
Yeah. You need to all work in harmony.
Okay, so
body, mind, spirit.
Yeah. And when we were doing certain movements today, you were making sure that I was going forward. You just mentioned forward intent. And you can think of what this is going to do to the mind of an individual who's generally very reserved and very, you know, if you get them opening up and moving forward and creating that in not every single movement, but a lot of movements that they do in the gym, it's like, I feel like I want to run through a wall. I feel very offensive. I feel like I'm not playing defense. You know what I mean? It gets an individual out of that mindset of and more into the let's fucking go. And that will, like, doing that with your body will change the way you act. Yeah, that's a really sick thing.
So, I mean, I'm fortunate enough to be like an educator of coaches too, and I've had experience working with people for many years of my life, and people were always fearful of movement and that mindset, and that, like, I get it because there's pain and like there's that stuff, but just like we're humans, like we're supposed to be capable of so much stuff, and if we can believe in that a little bit and we can expose ourselves to that, like we can just be freaking awesome. And if we can get through that, and honestly, like I'm so happy I get to work with coaches now because I can start instilling like a new thought process with a coach on how they're going to communicate with that person for the first time, so they're setting that person up for success for whatever coaches they're going to have in their life and any movement practice they're going to develop in their life. And that's such a huge thing, like just having that. And what was it, Graham was saying he's not a violent person, right? And you've seen that run through a wall, and that might be intimidating to somebody at first, but it's like we got to be able to fight in flight, Dave says, right? Like even though you don't have to be violent, but it's part of our nature to have that ability to defend ourselves. And if we don't, then we're missing out on something, I think. So,
and I'm not a violent person either. That's the last thing I want to do. Yeah. But martial arts and that type of stuff has helped me be able to at least have that capacity.
Yeah, and that whole art itself is all about respect of that and respecting the art of it. Like you're learning something that's dangerous, and you should respect it. Like, yeah, for sure.
And generally the tendency is the better the martial artist, the cooler and calm and collected the person. Yeah. In general. The more dangerous someone is, the more kind they are, the more like okay they are, because they're not trying to prove it. And a fight, you have to respect the fight because you can lose a fight as the better fighter. Right? So opportunity, there's no standing 8 count, right? In the MMA, right? So once one small error and you lost your fight. And you didn't lose a game, you lost a fight. Ooh, right. How does your ego handle that? Right?
Yeah. How do you guys coach somebody to tap into that, like, I'll say that primal, like, instinct, I guess? So I'm asking because Graham, when he's working with me in the gym, we'll be using the clubs and we'll be using various tools. And he's just like, dude, you have this crazy amount of aggression in you, but your body is just so tied up because of my back. Your body's trying to protect itself and you're not letting go. He's like, think less, you need to let go. He's like, you have this inside you. And I'm like, dude, I'm fucking going as hard as I can. He's like, no, you have way more aggression inside of you. And so, like, basically what he's telling me is, like, I'm not able to tap into that primal side.
Sure.
So again, somebody that's experienced pain in the past, how can I start tapping into that side?
So this is what I was kind of mentioning earlier, that thought I had on that rope before. It's winning. Whatever that means, and then low-level winning. It doesn't have to be anything. Like, I'm not going to tell you you're not primal, because that might be a loss in your head right there. You know what I mean? Like, because you said, I'm giving it everything I have, and it might be everything you have, So it's that idea that I gave it everything I had, and you just won today. So congratulations. You're going to come back tomorrow, and you're going to be more primal probably, because you won. Because that's a satisfying feeling, and you could put it in anything you do, right? You're going to edit something, like whatever it is, like you can win with everything. I try to win with anything, like everything I can in little ways.
Well, and I think also the most reality in terms of primal is efficiency. Okay? Because there was no room for inefficiency way back. Okay, so the most primal thing you could do is go smooth and slow to get fast, because you're smooth. Right? So slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And locomotion and fight and flight, 2 sides of the same coin. So if you start to learn to move with that grace and that poise where you're sustainable, you're poised and ready to pounce, right? Because you're learning how to control and move the body in that way, that is primal.
I got one more I'm going to give you too, just because it's something I did most of my life, and I think I take it for granted a little bit. And it is actually like violent, but not towards anybody, right? Okay. It's literally hitting a tire with a sledgehammer. I grew up hammering things, and it had a direct purpose: hit the nail in. It's going to have a perturbation to it. It's going to give me a new experience every time I hit. I'm going to get a shock to my system. It felt very relieved. Everything was integrated so I could get the job done. And it was like popping somebody in the face. Like it's like that level of getting that out, that tool wielding that didn't have to be destructive. It was constructive, right? I can build upon it. Well, so something like that, that's things like having all these little shifts we do with like the pulsers and the club too. They are that event. But I can create that event in a lot of unique ways. So I get exposed to it. So I'm not limited to this hit the tire, right? Hit the wall. Like I'm not limited to that, or punch the bag. Like all that stuff there. It will let you be primal and put everything you had into it and integrate it perfectly. And it's a little different every time. So that's a great way. And
the other thing is like the best way that I describe when I punch, like hit a bag or something, is satisfaction. Right, because I've developed a position or posture where I can go 100% without like fear of damage. And I remember when I first tried to study boxing, I had this amazing coach, amazing martial artist, knows so much stuff, taught me fundamental things. And I remember I would have to wrap up my wrists every time that I'd go hit the bag. I'd have to wrap them really tight, because if I went with full force and just abandon, I would invariably think and I would hurt myself. And then it's like 2 weeks, I can't fucking do it now. Come on. And so for me, the satisfaction of just getting like just the cleanest, most powerful punch is just it makes you less aggressive, because you're getting satisfaction from the aggressive behavior and you're not hurting anybody, including yourself.
I'll tell one more thing. You said fear of damage, and I think you were referencing yourself.
Oh, yeah.
It's interesting. I don't like striking. I absolutely hate it, but I kind of I love grappling. I love getting a hold of somebody, and I feel like there's less. I don't want to, and it's, I think, honestly, because I don't want to damage someone. Like, I feel like if I can get a hold of you, if that's what's happening, maybe I can resolve this situation at least. if I'm happen to be better at it. You know what I mean?
Sleep.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but it's like there's I have control. I'm getting a feedback that maybe I can control the situation where these are going up. Yeah. Like there's a good chance somebody's getting nicked or cut or hurt or broken. You know what I mean? Myself or you, and I don't want to hurt somebody. Yeah. That's honestly like you pick up and leave is the idea. You don't want to fight if you're not supposed to fight. So, but if we're going, like I'd rather grapple because we can hopefully resolve it. We can fatigue each other till we're not going to damage each other type thing. Right?
Andrew, take us on out of here. We'll have these guys back some other time because we'll go another 3 hours.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I know I had other questions, but I'm like, nope, this is a whole nother podcast. So thank you everybody for checking out today's episode. Please make sure you guys do us a huge favor and hit that like button. Subscribe if you guys are not subscribed already, and follow the podcast at MBPowerProject on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. My Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter is at I am Andrew Z. And make sure you guys drop comments down below. We gave you tons of stuff to talk about. So we want to hear you guys sound off in the comment section. And then before I forget, so it's at WeckMethod.com. So WECK method.com. Some of the stuff that we talked about, the soul steps, what are they called? The
propulsors.
Propulsors. That big old
RMT club.
I want to get that for my son as his like rattle. You know, he's only 1 year old, so that'd be sick. Yeah, all that stuff at weckmethod.com can be yours for 20% off. The promo code is WMBELL20, so WMBELL20 at checkout, and so you're going to save 20% off your entire order. So yeah, hit them up. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes. And Nsima, where can people find you?
And quick question, where can coaches like learn about these practices? Do you guys have something online that coaches can learn through, or do they
What I would say is this, the rotational movement training specialist course. Yeah. So we've gotten a lot better at teaching in this process. And Chris has put together a rotational movement training specialist course, which involves the ropes, elastic bands, and propulsors, but it teaches you our foundation. And he's done such a great job that the remote learning over the internet, the submissions that the coaches are giving us are better than when we were doing it in person a couple years ago, right? So he has refined it down to, we're going to respect your time, right? I don't respect your time because I'm going to tell you 10,000 stories, but he does. Okay? You know what I mean? Like we're a great complement to one another, because our skill sets are similar, but the differences complement one another. And so I would say that anybody who's in the industry, if you want a game-changing, life-changing, you're going to set yourself on a whole new trajectory, it's the RMTS, Rotational Movement Specialist Training course on our, and it's
we
remote.
do them live as well. We do them remote.
We do them
live,
live,
so
but you can do it. You don't have to pay a lot of money to have it in your own home, right?
Got it.
And cool. And I would say that that's the people who have taken it have said this was, it's been a life-changing, because what we want to do is we want to come underneath it all.
I can't recommend the live events enough. I did go to school to become a wedding planner, event planner. So I kind of had that thought process.
I want
to cater to people when they come. It's an experience. It's not just like an education. I went to a bunch of educations where it just didn't feel like it was for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I want everything that I do on that day, it's about you, and it's about learning and about being catered to, because we take care of people and we need to be valued for that.
And he's coaches. A forever coach, as am I. So if you come and learn, you always have access.
Yeah.
Nice.
Right.
Well,
cool.
At Nsima Inyang on Instagram and YouTube, Nsima Inyang on TikTok and Twitter. Chris and David, where can people find you guys?
The David Weck on Instagram. There'll be plenty of information there. And then weckmethod.com.
Yep. And then I'm at _Christopher.Chamberlin_ at Instagram. Yeah. All right. That's the name. Right? So cool.
I just want to say thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
For having
thank you
us.
guys for your time. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
This was incredible to meet you guys and to embark.
I learned a fuck ton.
I'm at Mark Smelly Bell. Strength is never weakness. Weakness never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.